Chapter 498, Zhao Xinmeng. Bai Wei nodded and respectfully said, "Disciple gives up." Fourth sister, Zhao Xinmeng, looked toward Wang Lin with a serious expression and softly said, "Seventh brother, if I were to give up as well, it would be too easy for you to obtain the title. The battle between the two of us will take place today." The image of Yun Daozi's fearful eyes appeared in Wang Lin's mind, and he revealed a look of hesitation. "Disciple gives up." Wang Lin took a deep breath and looked toward the All-Seer. The All-Seer was startled. This was the first time Wang Lin had seen that kind of expression on his face. The All-Seer frowned as he looked at Wang Lin and asked, in a serious tone, "Why did you give up?" The calm expression also disappeared from Zhao Xinmeng's face and was replaced with a strange expression. She stared at Wang Lin and silently pondered. The look of fear from Yun Daozi's face still hadn't left Wang Lin's mind. After hearing the All-Seer's words, he pondered a bit before answering, "Disciple's cultivation level isn't high enough to compete with fourth sister S. Wang Lin." The All-Seer cut Wang Lin off, then he gave him a meaningful look and said, in a serious tone, "Master would like you to try to fight for it once. My disciples should not be cowards. Also, you shouldn't be bewitched by others and have your heart filled with unnecessary things. You just need to remember that you should follow your desires on everything. I'll give you half an incense stick of time to think about it carefully. If you still decide to give up, then I won't stop you." The All-Seer frowned. After that, he looked at Yun Daozi, and his expression turned gloomy. When Yun Daozi noticed his master's gaze, his heart trembled, and he quickly lowered his head. The All-Seer's words landed in the disciples of the other 6 divisions. Their gazes, which were filled with confusion and re-evaluation, all fell on Wang Lin. Because in their eyes, it was extremely rare for their master to try to change someone else's mind. In the purple division, aside from Sun Yun, Wang Lin was the second person this happened to. Half an incense stick of time slowly passed by. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Then he looked toward the All-Seer, respectfully clasped his hands, and said, "Disciple will fight for it once." The All-Seer revealed a look of joy and nodded. "Good." Zhao Xinmeng looked at Wang Lin and softly said, "Seventh brother, let us start." One by one, purple stars suddenly appeared around her and began to orbit around her. Wang Lin stared at the stars. On planet Tianyun, it seemed like magical treasures weren't used much when fighting. People used spells instead. Although he hadn't fought much since he got here, everyone he met used spells as the main method of attacking. The stars orbiting Zhao Xinmeng all began to gather toward her finger as she moved through the air. Almost in the blink of an eye, her entire right arm was covered in a thick, purple light. Even the rest of her body was coated in a layer of purple light, giving her a mysterious feeling. "Seventh brother, I know you don't know what my Tao is, so I'll tell you today. My Tao is the demon's shadow. As long as I see in a spell once and its requirements are not beyond my cultivation, I can imitate it, though it won't be at full power. This spell is what I created from imitating your demonic finger. I call it the purple demonic hand." As she spoke, she waved her hand forward. The purple light suddenly left her arm and flew toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's body flickered as he quickly backed up. At the same time, he raised his right index finger. The celestial spiritual energy inside his body moved, and a purple flame quickly appeared on the tip of his finger. At the moment the flame appeared, a monstrous demonic aura appeared and surrounded the area. "This child, is he really a fit for my Tao? Back then he left me with one phrase. My Tao is the Tao of heaven's fate. Only by finding people who fit my Tao will I have a chance of stepping into the third step." The All-Seer's expression remained normal as he paid extra attention to Wang Lin's right index finger. "If this child really is a fit for my Tao, then I, the All-Seer, am willing to risk it once at any cost. It has been more than 30,000 years since I encountered him, and I have lost the majority of my disciples since then. For me to do this, am I right, am I wrong?" The All-Seer stared at Wang Lin with a melancholy gaze. Wang Lin's eyes were serious as he said, "Demonic finger." The purple flame on his finger suddenly flew out and collided with Zhao Xinmeng's purple demonic hand. When the purple stars completely merged with the purple light, a series of crackling and popping sounds could be heard. A mysterious change was happening inside. The demonic energy coming from the light was several times more intense than Wang Lin's demonic finger. This was clearly created due to some mysterious change from the two spells colliding. Zhao Xinmeng quickly backed up and slapped her bag of holding. Then a pearl appeared in her hand. She revealed a sly look as she softly said, "Gather!" After saying that, the demonic energy that was spreading out suddenly paused and began to move toward the pearl in her hand. Soon, all of the demonic energy was completely absorbed by the pearl. The originally white and flawless pearl was now completely dark. It was as if there were vengeful souls inside, and it gave off waves of cold energy. Zhao Xinmeng held the pearl and smiled. "Seventh brother, I won fight you for the title of true disciple, but this demonic energy must belong to me." Wang Lin looked at the pearl and said, "With a serious tone, you created the purple demonic hand to make me use the demonic finger and then absorb the demonic energy from it. Senior apprentice sister, if you had asked me directly, I wouldn't have minded, but now it is impossible for you to obtain that demonic energy." At the moment Wang Lin finished speaking, the demonic energy inside the pearl in Zhao Xinmeng's hand quickly disappeared like it was never even there. Soon, the dark pearl turned pure white again. This demonic energy wasn't real demonic energy gained from cultivation, but an illusion created from Wang Lin's celestial spiritual energy. As a result, Wang Lin had full control over it, and with just one thought, he could make it disappear. This kind of modifying celestial spiritual energy couldn't be given to others. Otherwise, if one were to study it, they would surely find the method to cultivate the demonic finger. Wang Lin promised Situnan that he would never teach it to anyone else. Zhao Xinmeng's expression sunk, and her bows knitted tightly together. She looked at the pearl in her hand and crushed it with one squeeze. She then raised her head to look at Wang Lin and softly said, "Seventh brother, I only want a bit of your demonic energy. If you give it to me, I will give up. Otherwise..." Wang Lin looked at Zhao Xinmeng. Although they had some dealings in the past, they walked their own paths. Wang Lin calmly said, "Fourth sister, I am unable to help you with this." Zhao Xinmeng looked at Wang Lin. Shortly after, she raised her arm and softly said, "9-cycle celestial refining tactic." With that, a powerful golden light appeared from within Zhao Xinmeng's body. At the same time, her face was covered in a golden light, giving off a mysterious feeling. Her right hand was like a golden pillar that gave off waves of golden light. Metal celestial spiritual energy began to slowly appear around her right arm, forming a golden vortex that slowly turned inside her arm. 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles, 4 cycles, 5 cycles. The energy circled a total of 5 times before the golden vortex stopped and began to spin in reverse. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he raised his left hand. The 3-cycle metal celestial spiritual energy that had been restricted in there was suddenly released and gathered in the palm of his hand. A similar-sized vortex appeared on Wang Lin's left hand and began to slowly turn. 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles. A look of shock appeared in Zhao Xinmeng's eyes. She had only given the 9-cycle celestial refining tactic to Wang Lin a few days ago, but he was able to reach 3 cycles in such a short period of time. This was beyond her expectations. Zhao Xinmeng hid the shock in her eyes and calmly said, "Seventh brother, 3 cycles is useless against me." Wang Lin's expression remained the same as the celestial spiritual energy in his body moved. A strand of celestial spiritual energy moved from his body into the 3-cycle metal celestial spiritual energy. The metal celestial spiritual energy shook violently and made another turn. Now it is 4 cycles. With that, another strand of celestial spiritual energy moved through Wang Lin's body and into this left arm. The 4 cycles metal celestial spiritual energy turned again. Now it is 5 cycles. Although Wang Lin's expression was calm, he was experiencing a great amount of pain inside his body. The metal celestial spiritual energy in his left arm was starting to go out of control, but Wang Lin's mental strength was not something Zhao Xinmeng could imagine. After all, everything that he experienced on planet Suzaku were things that Zhao Xinmeng, a disciple of a big and famous sect, would never have experienced. At this moment, in Zhao Xinmeng's eyes, Wang Lin's expression was calm, and his demeanor was normal, not revealing the slightest hint of anything wrong. Wang Lin faintly smiled as he looked at Zhao Xinmeng and said, "Could it be that you want to see my 6-cycle metal celestial spiritual energy?" Zhao Xinmeng's expression sunk. She looked at Wang Lin and slowly said, "Even if you have the power of 6 cycles, you are still not my match." Wang Lin laughed, then he slapped his bag of holding and the giant demon clan's axe flew out in a ray of black light and floated in the air. At the same time, the beast trap from Wang Lin's wrist flew out and turned into the war chariot. Would I be a match if I added these two? Aimlessly wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 499, The Purple Division's sixth brother. Zhao Xinming looked at Wang Lin. After pondering for a while, she suddenly smiled and softly said, I underestimated you. Seventh brother, I give up. With that, she moved back to where the Purple Division disciples were. However, just at this moment, a ray of purple light suddenly rushed over from the horizon. The disciples of the other 6 divisions looked into the distance at the ray of purple light. More than half of them made a weird face after seeing the purple light. The Ozer's expression remained the same. He didn't even look at the purple light. He had his hands behind his back and his face was calm. The purple light rushed over and stopped 1,000 feet away, revealing a middle-aged man inside. This person's cheeks were pale and very skinny. He looked like sharp longsword that gave off a cold aura. This aura was very similar to the aura of the disciples of Sword Sanling Qianho. He was wearing a purple robe. His clothes were almost exactly the same as Wang Lin's and Bai Wei's. He stood there as he clasped his hands at the all-seer and said, Disciple Chen Tao greets Master. It's him. Bai Wei's eyes became serious. A complex expression flashed across her eyes as fourth sister Zhao Xinmeng also stared at this person. The Purple Division's sixth brother. The holder of the true disciple title before Sun Yun. It is said that he followed Master for a very long time. When he lost to Sun Yun, he left the heavenly fate sect to train himself outside. Waves of soft discussion came from the disciples of the other 6 divisions. The Alsa's gaze fell on Chen Tao. He revealed a look of admiration and said, You were able to make it back. Very good. Chen Tao had a stoic expression as he said, Disciple originally wasn't going to be late, but when I passed Planet Black Ink, I saw a rare treasure there. I wanted to give it to Master as a gift, and was thus delayed. The Alzer laughed and asked, What kind of treasure caught your eye? Chen Tao's expression was calm as he slapped his bag of holding and an item appeared in his hand. This item was a flower with 6 colors. The flower itself was white, but the 6 leaves were red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, and yellow. The 6 different colors did not make the white flower look out of place. Instead, they gave it an out-of-this-world feel. Chen Tao sent the flower forward and respectfully said, It is because of this mysterious flower. Disciple-S knowledge isn't enough, so I am unable to recognize what this flower is. But on Planet Black Ink, there were 3 high-quality, desolate beasts fighting over it. Disciple was curious, so I took it. The flower slowly flew toward the Alser and stopped before him. The Alser looked at the flower, pondered a bit, and said, This flower is called the 7-colored glaze. It takes 10 years for it to take root, 100 years for the leaves to grow, 1,000 years for it to bud, and 10,000 years for it to bloom. Every time it blooms, it releases 1 color until it has bloomed 6 times. On the 7th bloom, it releases a 7-colored light. Beasts love this flower, and if a beast were to devour it when it releases the 7-colored light, it would benefit a lot. It is considered a heavenly treasure. I believe it is ranked 93rd by the Cultivation Alliance. Elder Son, am I correct? As the Alzer spoke, he looked toward Elder Son. Elder Son faintly smiled and nodded. That is correct. It is the 7-colored glaze, but it's not complete yet and hasn't formed the last leaf. However, with the All-Seer's spell, it won't take long for its 7th leaf to form as well. The Alzer raised his right hand and caught the flower. Then he smiled and said, Okay, I'll accept this. Chen Tao's eyes lit up. He then looked at the 3 Purple Division disciples and calmly said, It looks like my Purple Division is becoming smaller and smaller. Bai Wei, Zhao Xinmeng, how have you guys been? Bai Wei's expression was a bit unnatural. He didn't say anything. As for Zhao Xinmeng, she revealed a complex expression. She sighed and said, I just knew that you would definitely return for Master's birthday celebration. Chen Tao looked at Zhao Xinmeng before taking a glance at Wang Lin, and then no longer paid any more attention to Wang Lin. Where is Sun Yun? Zhao Xinmeng let out a sigh and sent out a voice transmission. Chen Tao's expression sank. He jerked his head to look at Zhao Xinmeng before sweeping his gaze toward Wang Lin and saying, You are 7th brother? Speak your name. Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. From the moment Chen Tao appeared, he wasn't hiding his cultivation. Wang Lin could vaguely see that his cultivation was past the soul transformation stage and should be at the ascendant stage. As for which stage of ascendant, Wang Lin wasn't able to tell. You aren't worthy of being my seventh brother. Sun Yun is my only seventh brother. Chen Tao's expression was calm as he moved his gaze away from Wang Lin. The Alzer was still observing his disciples. He smiled but didn't speak. Chen Tao looked at the Alzer with respect and decisively said, Master, disciple came back this time because I wanted to regain my title of true disciple. I hope Master can agree. The Alzer faintly smiled and said, Right now, in the Purple Division, only you and your seventh brother have the right to the title of true disciple. Between the two of you, only one will get it. Chen Tao revealed a chilly smile and took a step forward. With one step, he was able to arrive before Wang Lin. His hand moved faster than lightning as he threw out a seal that arrived 1 foot away from Wang Lin. A series of thunderous roars could be heard as Wang Lin's body quickly backed up, and the giant demon clan axe appeared before him to block the force of the seal. At the same time, the metal celestial spiritual energy on his left arm was used, and that was how he was able to stabilize himself after backing up a few dozen feet. He stood there and stared at Chen Tao with a gloomy expression. Wang Lin had been on guard the whole time. The attack earlier wasn't to attack him but to shock him. Even though the attack landed in the air, the shockwave was able to knock him away. Wang Lin clearly couldn't compete with this kind of power. Wang Lin didn't know that Chen Tao was even more shocked. The spell he used just now was very powerful, and even though it didn't land directly, the shockwave should have been able to send a brat merely at the mid-stage of soul transformation flying hundreds of feet. In the end, he should have been able to suppress Wang Lin and wouldn't have to do any more to obtain the title of true disciple. But he only caused Wang Lin to back up a few dozen feet. Not only did this not suppress him, it made it look like he pushed Wang Lin away because he wanted to battle. Chen Tao frowned as he coldly looked at Wang Lin and said, in tone that Wang Lin couldn't refuse, you give up. As Wang Lin looked at Chen Tao, his gaze gradually became cold. This person's overbearance was extremely obvious. He raised his left hand and sent out the 5-cycle metal celestial spiritual energy. The 5-cycle metal celestial spiritual energy spun as it shot out. In almost the blind of an eye, it arrived before Chen Tao. Chen Tao looked at it and softly said, This is not how you use this spell. With that, he pointed his right finger forward, and then the vortex of metal celestial spiritual energy suddenly stopped and released waves of loud humming sounds. Chen Tao flicked the golden vortex, causing it to spin once and the power to increase even more. It had clearly reached 6 cycles. Chen Tao didn't stop and flicked it 3 more times. An aura that felt like it could destroy the heavens and earth spread out from the golden vortex. At this moment, the vortex reached its limit of 9 cycles. Chen Tao raised his head and looked at Wang Lin with disdain. He pressed his right hand forward, causing the golden vortex to change directions and charge toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's face was gloomy as he quickly backed up. He grabbed the axe, jumped into the air, and swung the axe down. After a thunderous roar, a ray of axe energy more than 10 feet tall came out from the axe and descended on the golden vortex. After the axe energy landed on the golden vortex, it caused it to slow down for a bit, but it was still rushing toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin felt danger closing in, but he didn't panic at all. He raised his hand into the air and slashed it across the sky. Silver light suddenly appeared above the golden vortex, and at the same time, the teleportation skill was used by Wang Lin. However, his target wasn't himself, but the golden vortex covered by the silver light. Wang Lin formed teleportation spells one by one, and in the blink of an eye it was all complete. He softly said, Greater teleportation. At the moment he spoke, the golden vortex was already 3 feet away from him, so he could feel its destructive aura. However, he didn't have a trace of panic on his face. The 9-cycle vortex quickly closed in, but when it was 1 foot away from Wang Lin, the silver light surrounding it began to flash violently. Then it disappeared as if it never existed. This scene caused all of the surrounding cultivators' gazes to become focused. A hint of admiration appeared in the Alzer's eyes and he nodded. Chen Tao's eyes lit up. He no longer underestimated Wang Lin like before. All of this happened in a short period of time. Almost at the same moment the vortex disappeared, Wang Lin put the axe away. His hand formed a seal, which he threw toward the war chariot not far away, and he said, "Spirit beast, appear!" Earlier, Chen Tao only took a glance at the war chariot and didn't pay much attention to it. Now he suddenly turned his head toward it as a monstrous, unyielding aura spread out from it. At the same time, the giant spirit beast quickly condensed and released a thunderous roar. Wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 500, Battling an Ascendant. This roar pierced the heavens. All of the disciples of the other 6 divisions were shocked. They had never seen a treasure like this before, so after hearing the unyielding roar, Wang Lin's position in their hearts went up by 1 step. Even some of the guests revealed mysterious lights in their eyes. Even some of the old monsters revealed pondering expressions. Even Sword Saint Ling Tianhu revealed a look of shock when the spirit beast appeared. Wang Lin floated in the air and shouted, "Divide!" The spirit beast let out roar as it charged forward. Its speed was extremely fast, and it was charging toward Chen Tao. A hint of battle intent appeared in Chen Tao's eyes, and his hand formed a seal. In an instant, a purple ball suddenly appeared in his hand, and at the moment the spirit beast arrived, the purple ball in Chen Tao's hand collapsed. With a boom, the shockwave caused most of the surrounding cultivators' ears to hurt. Chen Tao stood there unmoving, but there were many holes on his clothes, making him look very disheveled. As for the spirit beast, it was pushed back several hundred feet. It shook its body and then let out another roar and charged again like crazy. This time several chains appeared on its body, and they were pulled completely straight. One end of the chains were connected to its body, and the other to the war chariot. The battle intent in Chen Tao's eyes became even stronger as he laughed. What a good beast. It is interesting. With that, he simply tore off the top half of his clothes and exposed his upper body. He slapped his bag of holding, and a long black rope appeared in his hand. This rope was like a living creature. The moment it appeared, there was a fishy smell, and it emitted a desolate aura. "Beast, my earth dragon tendon survived on a demonic planet by itself for 500 years. It was extracted from a dead demonic dragon. I want to see if you can escape from this dragon tendon." With that, he took a step forward and swung the dragon tendon directly at the spirit beast, all while ignoring Wang Lin. The spirit beast let out a roar and charged out. It dodged the dragon tendon, appeared next to Chen Tao in an instant, and attempted to devour him. Chen Tao let out a laugh. Then his body flickered and he moved out of the way. He moved the dragon tendon at an impossible angle and wrapped it around the spirit beast's neck in an instant. At the same time, Chen Tao moved himself on top of the spirit beast's head. He viciously grabbed the dragon tendon and said, "Beast, I want to see where you're going to run to now." Wang Lin's expression was still calm. He raised his hand and started making seals. Then he pointed at the war chariot and softly said, "War chariot, 5th seal, release!" With that, a flash of black light appeared in Wang Lin's hand, and at the same time, the giant spirit beast suddenly trembled. Shortly after, a never-before-seen fierceness appeared in the spirit beast's eyes. It suddenly raised its head and let out a fierce roar. Not only did this roar contain its unyielding nature, it was filled with the joy of being released after being trapped for tens of thousands of years. Back when Wang Lin obtained the war chariot, he also got the inheritance to use it properly. However, he was too weak, and it was more likely for it to devour him before even injuring the enemy. That's why Wang Lin had never opened the seals on the war chariot. Today was the first time he opened the first of the 5 seals, causing its power to increase drastically. The god-slaying war chariot was something that could slay celestial gods, so how could it be so weak? Once all 5 seals have been released, its power will be unimaginable. However, with Wang Lin's current cultivation, even just opening the first seal was very dangerous. If he couldn't control it, then what awaited him was the backlash from the war chariot. However, because his cultivation had reached the mid-stage of soul transformation, he had some confidence, or else he wouldn't have so easily decided to release the seal. Not only did the aura of the spirit beast change when the first seal was released, but the fierce spikes on the chariot itself also began to change. Those spikes began to move and grew even longer, making them look even fiercer than before. There were also waves of black light coming from the spikes. The black light moved along the chains and entered the spirit beast's body. The spirit beast let out a crazy roar, and its body suddenly grew several times larger, from few dozen feet to few hundred feet. It stood there as a towering beast and violently shook its body. For the first time, Chen Tao, who was standing on it, suddenly had a change of expression. Waves of black light came out from the spirit beast and rushed toward Chen Tao. Chen Tao held the dragon tendon with one hand and formed a seal with his other hand as balls of purple light appeared around him. As the black light rushed in, the balls of purple light all collapsed. Among the thunderous explosions, Chen Tao let out a muffled groan. At this moment, the spirit beast's giant body was covered by the black light. Then the spirit beast suddenly scattered into rays of black light as if its body had collapsed. In the end, there was only the dragon tendon holding nothing, and Chen Tao, who had an ugly expression on his face. Before him were rays of black light spinning in a circle. In almost the blink of an eye, the rays of black light reformed into the giant spirit beast 100 feet away from Chen Tao. After opening the first seal, the spirit beast no longer relied solely on devouring to attack. It could now use some of its innate abilities. Although Chen Tao's expression was ugly, the battle intent in his eyes became even stronger. He suddenly turned around to look at Wang Lin and gloomily said, "Junior apprentice brother, you now have the qualifications to be my junior apprentice brother. However, those qualifications have a price." Wang Lin stared at Chen Tao and slowly said, "You don't have the qualifications to be my senior apprentice brother." Chen Tao looked at Wang Lin, laughed, and said, "Fighting this beast is going to waste a bit of time. But as long as I capture you, this beast won't be able to run." The opponent was an ascendant cultivator, so Wang Lin knew that he wasn't a match, but he couldn't just give up like this. Even if he loses, he wanted this person to know that he shouldn't be messed with. At this moment, Chen Tao rushed over. Wang Lin's expression was calm, and he didn't move at all. Instead, he raised his right hand. This time, he extended his pinky. Situ Nan hesitated for a very long time before finally teaching Wang Lin the last of his 3 killing spells. Situ Nan told him in a very serious tone not to casually use this spell before he reaches the late stage of soul transformation. If he tries to use it at the early stage of soul transformation, before it even harms the enemy, he will experience backlash that an early stage soul transformation cultivator can withstand. Only after reaching the mid-stage of soul transformation can he barely use it, but he shouldn't use its full power, or else he will still suffer from backlash. Even at the late stage of soul transformation, he will have to be careful when using this 3rd killing spell. Only after he reaches the ascendant stage can he use this spell as he wishes. Wang Lin's right pinky pointed at Chen Tao. At this moment there was no celestial spiritual energy left in his body, and even his life aura was slowly disappearing. There was now no life left in his body. This scene shocked a majority of the surrounding cultivators. Even the Ozer's eyes became serious as he took a closer look. Sword Senling Tianhu stared at Wang Lin and revealed a mysterious smile. "This child is not bad." Of the surrounding cultivators, there was a red-faced old man with a giant, red gourd behind his back. He let out an alcoholic burp as he looked at Wang Lin and muttered, "Why does this spell look exactly the same as the one used by that madman I met on the way here?" When Chen Tao was 5 feet away from Wang Lin, he was suddenly overcome with a feeling of danger that he hadn't felt in a very long time. The last time he felt this was when he was facing some old masters. At this moment, all of Wang Lin's life aura disappeared. Only his eyes were bright, but they were filled with the coldness of death. This gaze caused Chen Tao to be shocked. What kind of gaze is this? Even those that cultivate the ruthless Tao can have this kind of gaze. Wang Lin softly said, "Underworld Finger." Underworld Finger was the last of Situ Nan's killing spells. Cultivating this spell is not like the other 2 spells, both of which can be learned through comprehension. This 3rd spell can only be learned after cultivating the Underworld Ascension method and using it to enter the Underworld. Only after experiencing the transition between life and death can one comprehend this spell. Back then, Situ Nan was able to gain enlightenment in the transition between life and death, while cultivating the Underworld Ascension method. Then he combined it with the Celestial spell to create this killing spell. Situ Nan once proudly bragged that although the power of this spell wasn't as strong as that broken Celestial spell it couldn't be far off. It is because of this that this spell requires one to reach the ascendant stage before they can freely use it. With a point of his pinky, the sky suddenly darkened and streaks of lightning suddenly flew across it. At the same time, the sky seemed to be opened by a pair of giant hands, and a giant mountain and river scroll appeared in the sky. This underworld finger activated Wang Lin's domain. Waves of gray gas came out of the scroll like crazy, and began to gather at an unimaginable speed, forming a second underworld finger. Some of the surrounding cultivators exclaimed, "Life and death domain!" At this moment, all of the cultivators' gazes landed on Wang Lin. The two underworld fingers moved extremely quickly toward Chen Tao. The battle intent in Chen Tao's eyes intensified as his body flickered, and he raised both of his hands. Two separate half-moon-shaped golden lights appeared in his palms. At the moment the underworld fingers arrived, he blocked both of them. A heaven-shattering sound echoed from before Chen Tao's body. The sky seemed to be torn by a tornado, and the life and death domain disappeared. Wang Lin's body backed up several dozen feet, and then he backed up another several hundred feet before he coughed out a mouthful of blood. The celestial spiritual energy in his body was a complete mess as he looked up at Chen Tao and gloomily said, "I give up." As for Chen Tao, his expression was normal as he withdrew his arms and looked at Wang Lin with an indifferent gaze. The battle intent in his eyes didn't lessen, but became even stronger as he said, in a serious tone, "Once you reach the ascendant stage, you and I will battle again, seventh brother." Chen Tao took a deep breath and suppressed the violent celestial spiritual energy in his body. Wang Lin's attack was completely outside of Chen Tao's expectations. If it wasn't for the fact that he encountered some good fortune on the way back and reached the mid-stage of ascendant, even though he could have withstood the blow, he would have definitely been injured. The Alzer looked at Wang Lin. The admiration in his eyes became even stronger, and he smiled. "Both of you belong to the Purple Division and are both my disciples, so don't hold a grudge against each other. Chen Tao, you won today, so you will be the Purple Division's true disciple." With that, the Alzer pointed to the spot between his eyebrows, and a crystal-clear purple crystal appeared from his forehead and landed in his hand. He then threw the crystal. It flew in a ray of purple light toward Chen Tao and entered the spot between Chen Tao's eyebrows. The Alzer slowly said, "This isn't your first time obtaining the title, so slowly comprehend it yourself." Chen Tao took a deep breath, gave the Alzer a deep bow, and respectfully said, "Disciple, thanks, master." The Alzer nodded. Then his gaze fell on the surrounding cultivators. He clasped his hands and gently said, "Everyone, my birthday celebration is now considered finished. Fellow cultivators, if you don't have important matters to attend to, please rest at my heavenly fate sect for a few more days, so we may talk about Tao and compare our understanding." Many of the surrounding cultivators responded politely, but almost all of them left immediately. In one day of time, tens of thousands of rays of light flew out of the heavenly fate sect and into the distance. Sword Ling Xianhu let out a smile as he took a step and turned into a ray of light, flying off into the distance. As he flew away, he said, "Old man Alzer, as per our promise, 3 months from now we will meet outside the gate to the East Demon Spirit Sea. You better have the people you will send in picked." The Alzer's eyes became serious, and he nodded. He turned toward Wang Lin and said, "Wang Lin, follow me to worship the ancestral spirit. Afterward, Master will teach you a forbidden spell and give you a life-saving treasure. After that you will be considered a real disciple under me." Wang Lin respectfully responded, and his eyes lit up. Forbidden spell. Only after truly becoming a disciple of the Alzer and worshipping the ancestral spirit can one study the forbidden spell that the Alzer created from imitating a celestial spell. This is an opportunity that tens of thousands of people wish for. Wishing for the like button for the VIDEO, hoping to double the likes on the VIDEO. In the meantime, everyone, throw your spare ones here. Chapter 501 Shatterland of Celestials. The Alzer waved his sleeves and a 7-colored cloud appeared. The cloud wrapped around Wang Lin and took him away toward the main sect. Wang Lin was inside the cloud as it moved through the blue sky. The mountain and rivers under his feet passed by in a flash. After several breaths of time, the 7-colored cloud passed the various divisions of the heavenly fate sect and arrived outside the main sect. What appeared before Wang Lin was a world even more majestic than the celestial realm. 3 towering mountains extended above the clouds. The mountain in the middle was snow white. When the sunlight hit the mountain, it created a blinding glare that caused anyone who looked at it to feel dizzy. There was greenery scattered all over the mountain, making it look even more magnificent. There was no road on the mountain. It was purely snow white. This snow was 9 ghost snow, which one melt for 10,000 years. It would be impossible for a mortal to get close. because if they came within 1,000 feet of the snow, their body would completely freeze. While Wang Lin was inside the seven-colored cloud, he could clearly feel the cold aura moving outside the cloud. Aside from the middle mountain, which was completely white, the other two mountains on the sides were black. Compared with the pure white of the mountain in the middle, this kind of black gave off a powerful sense of contrast. One by one, the black snowflakes fell on the two mountains like they would never end. From a distance, the scene before him didn't look real. It was as if someone had used the power of the heavens and earth to draw a very striking black and white mountain and river painting. As Wang Lin took a meaningful look at the Heavenly Fate Sect's main sect, his eyes gradually calmed down from the initial shock. The Ulcer waved his sleeves and the seven-colored cloud surrounding them suddenly disappeared. After the cloud disappeared, the cold aura rushed in and tried to invade Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's expression remained normal as the celestial spiritual energy inside his body moved, creating a light screen outside his body. The cold aura circled around the light screen for a bit before disappearing. The Ulcer had his hand behind his back as he looked at the three mountains and asked, "Wang Lin, what do you think about this place?" Wang Lin pondered a bit and then slowly said, "This place has a very powerful cold aura and is a great place to cultivate anything that requires cold and yin energy." The Ulcer faintly smiled and said, "Is that all?" Wang Lin lowered his head and respectfully said, "Disciple isn't knowledgeable enough to see anymore." The Ulcer shook his head. Then he looked at Wang Lin with a smile that was not a smile and said, "I always decide which forbidden spell each student will learn. But if you can see through the mysteries of this mountain, teacher will break the rules and let you choose whichever spell you want. Wang Lin, are you tempted?" Wang Lin raised his head, looked at the Ulcer with a gentle expression, and said, "Since teacher orders it, how would disciple dare to not follow?" He pointed at the black mountain on the left with his right hand and said, "This mountain is completely black. Even the snow that falls on it is black. However, this black snow is not cold, so when compared to the white snow in the middle, it gives off a strange atmosphere." The Ulcer's expression remained normal as he smiled and said, "Oh, continue." Wang Lin pointed at the mountain on the right and said, "This mountain is even stranger, as I can detect a hint of life from it. Although almost everything has life, this is the first time disciple has felt the life of a mountain." The Ulcer's expression was still calm as he smiled and said, "Is that all? If this is all, you still don't have the right to pick a forbidden spell from Master." Wang Lin faintly smiled as he shook his head and said, "Master, those two mountains are fake." After he said that, a hint of shock appeared in the Ulcer's eyes. He took another look at Wang Lin before letting out a laugh. He waved his sleeves and took the two of them toward the middle mountain at lightning speed. This child's mental strength is far above others. To be able to find clues about my spell at the mid-stage of soul transformation is very rare. Wang Lin's expression was very normal, but his heart was shaking. When he saw the three mountains, a very old memory from ancient god Tusi appeared in his mind. That was the 9th time Tusi had refined a treasure, and it was the last time he did. This treasure was a trident. Tusi searched for endless amounts of materials before he finally finished refining it. He was very satisfied with the treasure, but it only took physical shape. It had no soul. Therefore, Tusi dripped some of his ancient god blood on it, threw it toward a big planet, and the trident turned into 3 heaven-piercing mountains. This way, the trident would become a mountain and slowly form a mountain soul. After that, he left. According to Tusi's plan, once he finished training his technique, he would come back to get the treasure. At that time, the mountain should have formed and he would have a top-quality treasure. The 3 mountains created by the trident were almost exactly the same as the 3 mountains Wang Lin was looking at now. But he immediately discarded the idea that this was the trident, because it was indeed, as he said earlier, 2 of the mountains were fake. However, the Xianxia's cultivation is heavenly. If he were to hide it, then it would be impossible for me to see through it at my current cultivation level. Wang Lin cleared his mind when they arrived at the foot of the mountain. "Wang Lin, Master will wait for you up there. You can use teleportation, and the faster you get up there, the better the reward will be. It won't be hard for you with your cultivation to travel 100 steps, but the 100 steps at the top will depend on your fortune. The 100 steps at the top are what Master calls the shattered land of the Celestials." The All-Seer turned around, took a step, and disappeared without a trace before Wang Lin. Wang Lin raised his head to look at the white mountain peak. There was an endless amount of white snow falling. if one looked up for too long. They would feel the illusion that countless sharp and white swords were coming down. After withdrawing his gaze, Wang Lin didn't immediately ascend the mountain but sat down to cultivate. After one incense stick of time, he opened his eyes. His eyes were completely calm. He then stood up and began to walk to the peak step by step. The cold wind howled and the snow chilled him to the bones. As Wang Lin walked, the cold aura got even stronger, and the cold wind howled loudly and continued to blow on Wang Lin. There would be no footprints when one stepped on the white snow. The entire mountain was like a giant white crystal. If a mortal had a treasure to protect them from the cold, they would have no way to continue, because there was no place for them to get a foothold. But for Wang Lin, his feet never touched the mountain. He floated 3 inches above the mountain's surface as he worked his way up. It wasn't impossible to use teleportation here, but since the Alzer said that this was a test, then using teleportation would mean he failed the test. This is why Wang Lin didn't teleport, but calmly walked up the mountain step by step. The howl of the cold wind filled his ears, and the shining white snow glared before him. Outside of his body was the cold aura that continued to try to invade him, and below his feet was an icy surface that one would slip on the moment they landed on it. Nevertheless, this kind of test was not something Wang Lin couldn't handle. Back in the land of the ancient god, he went through many places like this. Time slowly passed. As he got closer to the top, the cold aura became even stronger, and the light around Wang Lin's body became even brighter. When he was 100 steps from the top, he stopped and didn't continue to move forward. He let out a deep breath, and at the moment he let it out, there were a series of crackling sounds. The breath was frozen into specks of ice 3 inches away from his mouth and gave off a crisp, crackling sound. At the same time, the cold aura rushed into his mouth and nose. The aura only slowly disappeared with the help of the celestial spiritual energy inside his body. Wang Lin raised his head. 100 steps away, at the peak of the mountain, there was a tower covered in snow. The tower was giving off a 7-colored light and looked very beautiful. Shattered land of the celestials! Wang Lin's eyes became cold. After pondering for a while, he descended. For the first time since he arrived, his 2 feet stepped on the mountain. At the moment his 2 feet touched the mountain, he felt like there was no friction at all. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he let out a cold snort and his right foot took a normal step forward. But with a boom, Wang Lin's right foot smashed 1 inch into the ground and created a solid foothold. Just at this moment, an unimaginably cold aura came from the ground. This cold aura was several times colder than what he'd experienced before. The aura entered his body through his foot and rushed toward his chest through his veins. But just as the cold aura was moving through Wang Lin's body, a divine sense suddenly came from Wang Lin's origin soul. When this divine sense swept through his body, the cold aura strangely calmed down and moved back through his right foot to return to the mountain. This cold aura isn't colder than my heart. If it can freeze my heart, how could it freeze my soul, my body? This is a joke, Wang Lin sneered as he took another step. The coldness on his face became the coldest thing on the mountain. The cold wind disappeared 3 inches away from him, and the cold snow disappeared 3 inches away from the top of his head. Wang Lin imprinted his foot into the mountain step by step as he walked directly toward the peak. Wishing for the like button for the video. Thinking nonsense. Wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 502 Domain enters the body. The current him was able to do this not because his cultivation was strong enough to suppress the cold here, but because of the coldness in his heart. The coldness in his heart wouldn't melt, and thus gave him an unyielding will. This was the state of purity of mind. My heart is cold, so no cold in the world can stop me for even half a second. Wang Lin's gaze was cold, and the aura he gave off was cold. Right now, he no longer felt human, but gave off the aura of never-melting primordial ice. On the top of the tower at the peak of the mountain, the Alzer sat there, looking at Wang Lin as he walked step by step toward the peak. His eyes shined brightly as he stared at Wang Lin and was lost in his thoughts. Originally, the All-Seer only thought that Wang Lin would take 10 steps into the shattered land of the Celestials before stopping. 10 steps was the limit of a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator. If Wang Lin could do that, he would bring Wang Lin to the tower to teach him a forbidden spell. But right now Wang Lin had already walked 21 steps, and this was the limit of a soul transformation cultivator. Only with the celestial spiritual energy of an ascendant cultivator Could one take the 22nd step and not have their origin soul frozen? Even with the all-seer's mental strength, he couldn't help but feel shock in his heart. Purity of mind, this child is purifying his mind here. Celestial cultivation, truth cultivation, and Tao cultivation. It seems this child has gained some enlightenment. His heart is cold, so no matter how cold something is, it can affect his heart. Using this state, he was able to take 21 steps. Wang Lin, master underestimated you. If you cultivate for more than 10,000 years, I wonder if you can reach the 3 realms of nirvana. Wang Lin stopped after taking the 21st step. His entire body was now ice cold. My domain is a sliver of the comprehension of life and death under reincarnation. The Tao of reincarnation is one of the most ruthless Taos in existence. Behind Wang Lin, the sky changed colors, and the snow falling behind him began to churn. Then a giant scroll suddenly appeared behind him. Rivers and mountains appeared on the scroll. However, there were no colors, only black and white. Wang Lin took a deep breath, raised his foot, and took the 22nd step. With this step, the entire mountain trembled and the ice below him cracked. This showed exactly how strong that step was. The All-Seer's eyes released a golden glow as he stood inside the tower. Back then, Sun Yun was able to take 26 steps with late-stage soul transformation cultivation. Wang Lin, how many steps can you take? Wang Lin suddenly raised his head and looked at the tower at the mountain peak. After pondering for a while, he raised his foot and took another step. This time he didn't just take 1 step. He took 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps. On the first step, Wang Lin raised his head and his eyes became cold. On the second step, his entire body was as cold as ice. On the third step, the life and death scroll behind him suddenly shrank and floated above his head. On the fourth step, Wang Lin was filled with energy as the coldness in his heart filled his body. This coldness fused with his domain to create a mysterious force, and with it, he took the 5th step. After this 5th step, Wang Lin's gaze was like lightning as he looked at the tower on the mountain peak. He took 5 steps in a row, and every step he took would cause an echo of rumbling sounds from the mountain. After taking 5 steps, countless cracks appeared around Wang Lin. However, rather than collapsing, they began to mysteriously recover. 27 steps. The life and death scroll floating above Wang Lin went from being 3 inches above his head to entering his head and completely fusing with his origin soul. At this moment, a shocking aura suddenly came out from Wang Lin's body. His long hair moved without any wind, and the snow around him began to swirl as it was pushed away from him. Domain. It is something one comprehends when reaching the soul formation stage, and then one gains understanding of it over the 3 stages of the soul formation stage before it can take physical form. By then, one only needs enough cultivation and celestial jades to refine one's body from a mortal body to a celestial body. Then, after one's origin soul completely fuses with their body, they can reach the soul transformation stage. One's domain will become a completely corporeal existence when they comprehend at the soul transformation stage. However, this process doesn't happen instantly, but gradually over time. Wang Lin's life and death domain was a very rare domain, and it was very hard to make it corporeal. Up until now, Wang Lin only had a vague understanding of how to make it corporeal. He still hadn't grasped the key points. If he continued like this, then his chance of reaching the ascendant stage was slim. But today, at the shattered land of the Celestials, his domain and his purity of mind fused, allowing him to take 5 more steps from his original 22-step limit. These 5 steps were steps down the road of Tao, filled with the determination of not looking back. If he didn't take a step, it would be fine. But if he did, then he had to surpass those before him. Using this moment, Wang Lin was able to take an important step forward in making his domain corporeal. Although this step didn't increase his understanding of his domain much or increase his cultivation much, it paved a very important road toward reaching the ascendant stage. Domain enters the body. In the tower, the All-Seer took a deep breath and said, "This child has hope of reaching the ascendant stage within 100 years. 27 steps." Wang Lin pondered. He could feel that 27 steps was the limit. In truth, on the 25th step, his Tao and domain reached their current limit, but due to his domain entering his body and the enlightenment he obtained, he was able to take a few more steps to reach the 27-step total. Wang Lin knew that he wasn't able to take the 28th step. If he were to take that step, all of his cultivation would disappear, and even his origin soul would shatter. Just at this moment, the 7-colored light at the top of the tower started shining brightly and turned into 7 halos of light that surrounded the entire mountain. In that instant, all of the coldness surrounding the mountain suddenly disappeared. The ice before Wang Lin began to glow with a 7-colored light, and a 7-colored rainbow flew out from the ground before him. "Come up to see me." The Alzer's voice came from the tower at the peak, and it was filled with majesty. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he took a deep breath and adjusted his cultivation a bit before stepping onto the rainbow. With one step, he stepped onto the rainbow, and with the second step, he crossed the remaining 70-plus steps to arrive at the foot of the tower. This was a very ordinary-looking tower. At this moment, rays of 7-colored light gathered at the foot of the tower and formed into the All-Seer. The ancestor of my heavenly fate sect isn't a cultivator but this heaven fate spell. The only thing I seek is the heaven's fate. Fate spells can be created by the heavens and by humans, but no matter what, fate is the key. I just happened to pass planet Suzaku when you were comprehending your domain. I saw you following your domain to its origin, and I was tempted by my love of talent to accept you as a disciple. This means there was fate between us, the fate of master and disciple. I, the Alzer, have followed the heaven's fate my entire life, and thus I accepted you as my disciple. At this point, the All-Seer paused and looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was respectful. He just stood there and remained silent. You walking 27 steps was outside my expectations. You didn't disappoint me. The Alzer withdrew his gaze, raised his hand, and grasped at the air. With a ripping sound echoing in the area, the sky was split in half by that casual grasp, creating a huge rift. 7-colored light came out from the rift and covered the entire sect. Right now, the main sect and the 3 mountains were covered by this 7-colored light. At the same time, the 7 divisions each released a colored halo matching their division. At this moment, a portion of planet Tianyun was covered in this 7-colored light. At the source of all this 7-colored light, the rift, the Alzer exuded a 7-colored aura and smiled. For my whole life, I've loved the 7-color the most. If you add the black and white from the 3 mountains here, the 9 colors together is the most beautiful scene in the world. With that, the Alzer's expression became serious. At this moment, all the gentleness from before was gone and was replaced with majesty. He looked at Wang Lin and shouted, "Wang Lin, kneel." Without a word, Wang Lin quickly kneeled and raised his head to look at the All-Seer. The All-Seer's right hand pointed at Wang Lin, and he shouted, "Today I, the Alzer, accept Wang Lin as the Purple Division's 7th disciple under the 9 colors. Wang Lin, are you willing to become my disciple? Follow the sect rules, not betray the heavenly fate sect, focus on cultivation, walk down the path of grand Tao and complete your Tao. You, answer me." Wang Lin's eyes became serious. He revealed a determined look and said, "As long as Master doesn't betray me, I won't betray Master. As long as the heavenly fate sect doesn't betray me, I won't betray the heavenly fate sect. This is my Wang Lin's promise." The Alzer's eyes narrowed, and he carefully looked at Wang Lin before slowly nodding. His left hand reached out toward the rift, and the entire sky suddenly trembled. A giant, 7-colored altar slowly descended from the sky. This altar was too big. When only a piece of it descended, there was a series of crackling sounds. It was as if the ground couldn't hold its weight. There were countless 7-colored wooden tablets on the altar. At this moment, with the wave of the Alzer's left hand, a wooden tablet flew out and landed in his palm. The Alzer's nail was like a knife as he quickly carved something onto the tablet. Planet Tianyun, first year of Yanwu, Wang Lin was accepted as the 7th disciple of the Purple Division. With that, the Alzer threw the tablet, and then it burned into purple flames. It flew back in a ray of purple light back to the altar. "Now I will teach you a forbidden technique. What kind do you want to learn?" Wishing for the like button for the VIDEO, hoping to charge through the trending charts for the VIDEO this month. Chapter 1 more. When the All-Seer's question landed in his ears, Wang Lin pondered. All forbidden spells are derived from celestial spells, so there are great differences in power between each forbidden spell. Some forbidden spells are derived from mid-quality celestial spells. These spells are a lot more powerful than forbidden spells derived from low-quality celestial spells. In fact, their power might not be that much weaker than a real low-quality celestial spell. Also, if there are spells that are derived from high-quality celestial spells, they are not any weaker than low-quality celestial spells. They may be even stronger. In the end, the power of a forbidden spell depends on the quality of the celestial spell it is derived from. Wang Lin wasn't short on offensive spells. Whether it was the 3 killing spells from Situnan or the War Chariot with the first seal released, they were all attacking methods. In addition to those, he still had the Celestial Sword and the Half-Moon Blade. The Half-Moon Blade might just be one of Wang Lin's most important treasures. As for escape spells, with the teleportation restriction, he wasn't worried. Although it takes a bit of time to use, once used, its power is extraordinary. As for when he's in space, he has the Silver Dragon Compass, so his speed there isn't slower than anyone else's. However, this is all comparing to Ascendant-level cultivators. The power one obtains when their cultivation passes the Ascendant stage and reaches the 2 Yin and Yang stages, or past those to the 3 Nirvana stages, is not something Wang Lin can imagine right now. The All-Seer didn't break Wang Lin's train of thought. He silently stared into the distance without any hint of impatience. This was Wang Lin's first choice. The All-Seer wanted to see what kind of spell this child would pick. Shortly after, Wang Lin raised his head to look up at the All-Seer and slowly said, "Disciple wants to learn a survival spell." "Survival?" The All-Seer looked at Wang Lin and smiled. "How do you want to survive?" Wang Lin's voice was calm as he slowly said, "As long as there is a hint of life, I would be able to survive and continue my pursuit of the Grand Tao." The All-Seer faintly smiled as he shook his head and said, "Master doesn't have a spell like that?" Wang Lin pondered and didn't speak. The All-Seer pondered a bit before saying, "Forget it. To ask you to choose is to let your own fortune do the work, but for me to ask you is your master's mistake. Your fate can be found with a question. It will depend on your own fortune. Now Master will open the door to 3,600 forbidden spells. You can go pick one yourself." With that, the All-Seer raised his right hand and pointed at Wang Lin at an unimaginable speed. Wang Lin only saw a 7-colored door open up as the All-Seer's finger pointed toward him. Then his body flew toward the door without his consent. He gradually moved through the door. What appeared before Wang Lin was a 7-colored world. This place was boundless, but there were 3,600 identical All-Seers here. They were either sitting in the lotus position, cultivating, or battling. The 3,600 All-Seers were scattered across this world and cultivating their own spells. Every spell was different. Wang Lin silently stood there, watching all the different All-Seers. At first glance, Wang Lin saw an All-Seer standing in the distance. This All-Seer's hands formed seals and moved in an unpredictable manner. Rays of metal celestial spiritual energy appeared from his hand. The metal celestial energy formed a giant vortex. 1 turn, 2 turns, soon it easily reached 9 turns. At this moment, a power that shocked Wang Lin's heart slowly came out from the vortex. This power was very strong. 9-cycle celestial refining tactic. Wang Lin looked at it for a bit before looking at the next one. He saw another All-Seer sitting in the lotus position 300 feet away. His eyes weren't closed. They were releasing a bright light. Strands of black gas were floating out from his body and gathering above his head. More and more black gas gathered above his head until a black cloud was formed. The black cloud suddenly began to churn like crazy and then immediately descended from above and surrounded that All-Seer. There were hissing sounds coming from the black cloud before it suddenly moved and disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. Forbidden spell, immortal demon body. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin isn't in a rush as he checked out all 3,600 forbidden spells one by one. In the distance, there was a white-robed All-Seer whose eyes were releasing a mysterious light. He raised his right hand and released a 7-colored glow. His eyes flashed purple, and then the purple from the light in his hand flew out and disappeared into the void. A shockwave echoed in his heart as Wang Lin silently watched this scene before him. He didn't know how long he had been here, and of the 3,600 spells he had seen a majority of them. However, out of all of them, only this one had shocked him to this degree. This spell was very powerful, but that was not the key point. The key point was that this spell was based on the 7-colored light. It has to be said that the Allser liked the seven-colored light the most, so a spell based on it couldn't be weak. Wang Lin looked for a very long time before turning around and never looking at it again. In a very inconspicuous part of this seven-colored world, there was a wide empty area with only a gray-robed Allser sitting there. There was no sign of any celestial spiritual energy fluctuations. He just sat there cultivating with his eyes closed. Wang Lin only took one look as he passed by him, and then jumped over this area. However, just as he jumped over, he suddenly stopped, turned around, and carefully inspected this all-seer that was cultivating. Gray the Allser likes the 7 color, and the 9 color is the apex, so where did gray come from? Wang Lin's eyes revealed a mysterious light. The more he looked, the brighter his eyes became. Although this all-seer looked exactly the same as all the other ones, Wang Lin was able to tell at a glance this one seemed a bit younger. A younger all-seer, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He sat down in the lotus position and then stared at the gray-robed all-seer. He sat there for several days. During these several days, the gray-robed all-seer didn't move. It was as if time had stopped. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin was still silently sitting there, but he still hadn't seen this all-seer move an inch. Strange! Wang Lin revealed a pondering expression as he raised his right hand and moved it very rapidly, creating afterimages. Soon, an illusionary restriction appeared in his hand and turned into a black seal. He hit the seal, then it quickly flew at the gray-robed Allser, who was still silently sitting there. This was the first time he attacked since coming here. The restriction flew through the air and went right through the gray-robed Allser. The Allser didn't move at all and disappeared along with the restriction. Wang Lin was startled. He spread out his divine sense to carefully check the surrounding area, but found no trace of the gray-robed all-seer. Strange! Wang Lin frowned. He pondered for a bit before spreading out his divine sense and searching this seven-colored world at lightning speed. An unknown amount of time passed. On this day, while Wang Lin was flying, his expression suddenly changed, and he turned to the left without any hesitation. Not long after, Wang Lin stopped and saw an all-seer sitting in the lotus position 1,000 feet before him. He was wearing a gray robe. This was the strange, gray-robed all-seer that Wang Lin had been looking for these past several days. Wang Lin quickly flew over and stopped 100 feet before him. He pondered for a bit before slapping his bag of holding. The celestial sword appeared in his hand. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and without a word, he swung the sword. A ray of sword energy shot out, and the half-moon blade followed it. The speed of the half-moon blade was unimaginable. In the blink of an eye, the half-moon blade pierced through the chest of the gray-robed Allser. However, it didn't do any harm to him. It was as if his existence was just an illusion. The sword energy that followed shortly after also just went directly through the gray-robed Allser and flew off into the distance. Just at this moment, killing intent came from the gray-robed Allser. This killing intent was very powerful. It was almost monstrous enough to reach the heavens. In almost the blink of eye, the killing intent filled the surrounding area and quickly spread. Far in the distance, all the other Allsers that were practicing their spells stopped and looked over in this direction with mysterious lights in their eyes. At this moment, in this seven-colored world, all the other Allsers felt the change that happened here. The other all-seers immediately flew over here, and in the blink of an eye, all of them arrived within 5,000 kilometers of the gray-robed Allser. Seal! A shout came from all the all-seers within 5,000 kilometers. An unimaginable and mysterious power suddenly appeared. It descended from the heavens like a giant net, and quickly rushed toward the gray-robed Allser to seal him. The gray-robed Allser revealed a sneer as he raised his head and only said one word, "Scram!" With one word, the sky changed colors and the giant net shattered. An unimaginable killing intent quickly swept across 5,000 kilometers. All the Allseers within 5,000 kilometers were quickly forced to retreat. Soon, they retreated tens of thousands of kilometers. At this moment, only a few Allsers remained within 5,000 kilometers of the gray-robed Allser. These Allseers were the ones that possessed powerful forbidden spells. Under the assault of this killing intent, Wang Lin was immediately soaked in cold sweat. This killing intent was countless times stronger than his original body S. It was like comparing the shining moon to a firefly. They were simply not comparable. Before, Wang Lin believed that his original body's killing intent was the strongest, but now this gray-robed all-seer was the one with the most powerful killing intent he had ever seen. However, this wasn't what shocked Wang Lin the most. What shocked him the most was that when all the other All-Seers rushed over, he clearly felt with his divine sense that all 3,600 All-Seers had arrived. Wang Lin's eyes suddenly stared at the cold-faced All-Seer. He was the 3,601st. There is one extra. Wang Lin took a deep breath. The video schedule for first is up, and I ask all friends not to be stingy. Remember to share Leo. If you're capable, friends, please be prepared to support Leo with a like. Chapter 504, Celestial Slaughter Art. Just at this moment, the gray-robed All-Seer suddenly opened his eyes. This was the first time he opened his eyes. He had a pair of gray eyes. He looked at Wang Lin but didn't say a word. However, when this gaze fell on him, Wang Lin felt his origin soul shake and his ears filled with roaring thunder. Don't bother me. Wang Lin's origin soul shook violently and he lost awareness of his surroundings. When he regained his senses, the gray-robed All-Seer had disappeared without a trace. Strange. Wang Lin's expression darkened and he silently pondered for a bit. Then he spread out his divine sense and began to search again. He gave up on checking all the remaining All-Seers for their spells and began searching for the strange gray-robed All-Seer. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin searched with all his might and was able to meet the gray-robed All-Seer once again. Every time he tried, none of his attacks had any effect, and the gray-robed All-Seer would disappear without a trace. No matter how hard to try it, he couldn't find out how the gray-robed All-Seer disappeared. Until the sixth time. To be exact, the sixth time wasn't Wang Lin who found the gray-robed All-Seer, but the gray-robed All-Seer found Wang Lin. On this day, Wang Lin had already given up on searching and decided to learn that seven-colored spell. That spell was what he considered the best spell here. He silently stood before the All-Seer that demonstrated the seven-colored spell. Just as he let out a sigh and was about to decide, a voice entered his ears like a cold breeze. Are you the All-Seer's disciple? Wang Lin was startled as he slowly turned around to look behind him. The gray-robed All-Seer appeared like a ghost 10 feet behind him. At the same time, the All-Seer that was practicing the seven-colored spell stopped showing off the spell and raised his head to look at the gray-robed All-Seer. The gray-robed All-Seer glared at the other All-Seer, causing the other All-Seer to retreat and disappear off into the distance as if he dreaded the gray-robed All-Seer. Wang Lin nodded and said, Yes, I am. Why are you here? The gray-robed All-Seer's voice was still cold. Wang Lin calmly said, To pick a forbidden spell. Forbidden spell, the gray-robed All-Seer revealed a look of disdain. Then he looked at Wang Lin and said, It is very rare for him to let someone in here. I am afraid it was for me. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he asked, Senior is? The gray-robed All-Seer didn't respond to Wang Lin's question, but carefully examined Wang Lin and calmly said, Display your domain. Wang Lin frowned, but then immediately relaxed and brought out his life and death domain. Shortly after, the domain turned into black and white light above his head and then suddenly merged to form the life and death scroll. The gray-robed All-Seer's eyes lit up. Then he nodded and said, Attack me. Without a word, Wang Lin raised his hand, and the life and death scroll suddenly appeared in his grasp. Then he suddenly pulled it open. The current him was like the heavens controlling the life and death domain. He looked at the gray-robed All-Seer and said, Life and death, reincarnation. With that, strands of gray gas came out from the black and white mountain and river painting on the life and death scroll. The strands of gray gas were like vicious dragons as they charged toward the gray-robed All-Seer. The gray-robed All-Seer's eyes revealed a gray glow that pierced through space and landed in Wang Lin's eyes. As for the gray gas that was charging toward the gray-robed All-Seer like fierce dragons, it silently collapsed before him. Life and death domain, the gray-robed All-Seer looked Wang Lin and said, The All-Seer's reason for letting you come here is probably for you to get my celestial slaughter art. He probably wanted to see if you were fated to learn this spell. The celestial slaughter art isn't a celestial spell. It's imitated from a celestial spell of unknown rank. This celestial tactic is a very good match for your life and death domain. However, for you to learn my celestial slaughter art, you have to promise me one thing. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he said, Speak! The gray-robed All-Seer's eyes were cold as he slowly said, Once you use the celestial slaughter art, you must not leave your enemies alive. If you can promise me that, I'll teach it you. Wang Lin pondered a bit. Then he faintly smiled and shook his head. I want to learn it. With that, he clasped his hands at the gray-robed ulcer and turned around to leave. The gray-robed ulcer's eyes lit up. He waved his right hand, and a strand of gray gas suddenly appeared in his palm. This strand of gray gas was like a sharp sword. With a casual wave, the gray gas shot out toward Wang Lin with a loud shrill. Wang Lin suddenly turned around. His eyes were calm as he stared at gray-robed all-seer. The gray gas passed by Wang Lin and landed on an all-seer that was practicing a spell more than 10,000 feet away. The all-seer didn't even have a chance to dodge. The gray gas hit him directly. Then his body trembled and disappeared into a cloud of smoke. At the same time, a ray of gray light flew back from the cloud of smoke to the gray-robed ulcer, revealing it to be a complex seal. The gray-robed ulcer calmly said, "This seal is formed by the celestial slaughter art. Using the killing road to obtain life force and having the life force circle you to form life seals. The more of these seals you have, the stronger your defense. I have millions of these seals on me, so even if Planet Tynoon explodes, I'll be fine. You don't want to learn this spell?" Wang Lin pondered a bit before asking, "Why must I learn it?" The gray-robed ulcer coldly said, "You are the sixth person the ulcer has sent in. I don't like the number 7, but I also have a promise with the all-seer. However, if you still want to pass, then forget it." Wang Lin looked at the person before him and suddenly said, "What is your relationship with my master?" The gray-robed ulcer coldly looked at Wang Lin. He waved his right hand and a strand of gray gas formed into a jade before disappearing without a trace. Wang Lin revealed a pondering expression. Shortly after, he grabbed the jade formed by the gray gas. At the moment he touched the jade, the 7-colored world around him suddenly changed. It was as if the world was turning upside down, and his vision went blurry. When he regained his vision, he was back on the top of the tower. Before him, the ulcer revealed a mysterious light in his eyes. He stared at the jade in Wang Lin's hand and stroked his beard. "Celestial slaughter art. Good." Wang Lin didn't speak, but he slowly frowned. The all-seer looked at Wang Lin and laughed. "Don't think too much about it. That person is your master's second origin soul. I cultivated it back when I was young. However, during the time I was at the yin and yang stage, due to a few matters, I had to split from him. The celestial slaughter art matches the survival that you wished for." Wang Lin pondered a bit before putting the jade away. He didn't believe everything the all-seer said, but Wang Lin was very cunning, so he didn't show any of it on his face as he nodded. The ulcer reached out into the void and a ray of purple light immediately appeared. The purple light turned into a purple ring. After carefully looking at the ring, he threw it at Wang Lin and said, "This light is made of the purple light from the 7-colored light. It will be your life-saving treasure. This treasure can block the full power of a late-stage ascendant cultivator twice. However, you must remember that if you break the sect rules, I'll remove one attack from it. Break the rules twice, and this treasure will have no effect." The second disciple of the purple division that was killed by you used his life-saving treasure one time in all these countless years and then broke the sect rules once. Otherwise, there would be no way for you to so easily obtain his origin soul. However, because it was him who acted first multiple times to attack you, I won't pursue this matter. But Wang Lin, remember that there won't be a second time. Wang Lin accepted the ring. Instead of putting it on his finger, he put it inside his bag of holding and said, "Thank you, master." The ulcer nodded. Then he waved his sleeves and said, "I have taught you a forbidden spell and given you a life-saving treasure. You can go back." With that, he turned around and walked toward the tower. Wang Lin took a few steps back before suddenly raising his head and saying, "Master, disciple wants to leave the sect to train." The ulcer didn't turn around, but his voice came. "A disciple of my heavenly fate sect can only leave the sect to train if they leave as a messenger. Take my token to the Star Service Court and pick a cultivation country below rank 6 to be a messenger to. However, don't be late to the Eastern Demon Sea in 3 months." With that, the ulcer's figure walked into the tower and disappeared without a trace. A white token flew out of the tower and landed in Wang Lin's hand. At the same time, a gentle force began to spread out from the tower and push Wang Lin off the mountain. More than 50 kilometers away, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a mysterious light as he looked at the black and white mountains one more time before quickly leaving. The Star Service Court was above the Red Division. After Wang Lin left the main sect, He didn't waste any time and charged directly toward the Red Division. Red light continued to be emitted from the peak of the Red Division S mountain, covering the area and making it look like a sea of blood. Wang Lin's figure quickly flew toward the Red Division. Just as he was about to enter, he heard a cold voice shout, "Incoming person, stop." Wang Lin didn't speak a word as he threw the token the All-Seer gave him and charged into the Red Division. When the person who shouted saw the token, he let out a cold snort but didn't stop Wang Lin from charging in. After Wang Lin entered, the space rippled and a middle-aged man wearing red walked out. He coldly looked at where Wang Lin disappeared to and muttered to himself, "Seventh brother of the Purple Division." Shortly after, Wang Lin left the Red Division and looked toward the west. Rank 5 Cultivation Country, Lin Yu. The VIDEO has reached first place in the ranking but still can't maintain the top position. Urgently wishing for all friends to push a round of VIDEO, Leo is extremely grateful. Chapter 505 Xuan Yuan Sect. Planet Tianyun, a rank 7 cultivation planet under the Cultivation Alliance. It can be said that even amongst the rank 7 cultivation planets, it is a top-tier existence, and that's because there is a person named Alser on planet Tianyun. The Alser is considered an extremely respected sage of his generation. He even has a seat in the Cultivation Alliance. He is someone many Don T wish to mess with. A rank 7 cultivation planet would normally have many rank 6 cultivation planets under their control to bolster their own power, but this is not true for planet Tianyun. There are only 5 cultivation planets around planet Tianyun, and they are all rank 6 cultivation planets. They are named Heaven, Earth, Human, Life, and Fate. There is a giant transfer array connecting these 5 planets to planet Tianyun. However, the cost of opening it is great, so it is not easily used. Aside from these 5 planets, there are many more smaller planets around planet Tianyun. These are all personal cultivation caves of old monsters. Even though there are transfer arrays connecting them, they are normally sealed and won't easily be opened. At the extreme eastern part of the planet Tianyun, there is a giant transfer array. This transfer array is controlled by the Heavenly Fate sect and has someone stationed there year-round. Xiao Zi was one of the guards in charge of this area. He woke up early in the day and has been sitting in the lotus position outside the array ever since. Xiao Zi was the Green Division S 5th generation disciple. He has cultivated for 700 years and has reached the mid-stage of soul formation. He is more or less satisfied with his life. It has to be said that just being a disciple of the Heavenly Fate sect gives him a very high position on this planet. Anywhere he goes, he will be admired and respected by others. Xiao Zi opened his eyes and let out a long sigh. Only 3 more months and someone will come to replace me. Once I return to the sect, I must go into closed-door cultivation for several years to push toward the late stage of soul formation. Once I reach the late stage of soul formation, I'll apply to leave the sect to train. If I can get myself some celestial jades, then I, Xiao Zi, might really have a chance to reach the soul transformation stage. While thinking about this, Xiao Zi's eyes revealed a look of longing. Unfortunately, my luck is not good. If I were as lucky as the ancestors who were directly accepted as the founding ancestor S disciples, then none of this would be a problem. Alas, ever since I, Xiao Zi, was a child, I dreamed of reaching the ascendant stage. I would be able to have a planet as my own cultivation cave. Isn't that the most joyous thing in the world? Xiao Zi let out a bitter smile. Then he took a deep breath and was about to continue cultivating. However, just at this moment, a ray of purple light moved across the sky like a meteor and broke the sound barrier. Soon, the purple light closed in and was only 10,000 feet away. Xiao Zi's expression became serious. He didn't stand up but coldly looked at the incoming ray of purple light. There were also a few people that used the transfer array every day. Aside from the few very powerful cultivators, even if their cultivation level was higher than his, Xiao Zi still looked down on them because he, Xiao Zi, was a disciple of the Heavenly Fate sect. At this moment, just as the sun began to rise in the sky, the ray of purple light slowed down, allowing Xiao Zi to see the person inside it. This person had a head full of long hair that was simply flowing behind him. He was wearing a purple robe and arrived 10 feet before Xiao Zi with one step. The person then looked at Xiao Zi coldly. Xiao Zi's gaze fell on the token on this person's waist. On the token there was a 7 clearly carved out. At the moment he saw the token, Xiaoxia's body started trembling. Without any hesitation, he stood up and respectfully said, "Green Division S 5th Generation Disciple Xiaoxi greets Purple Division S 7th Ancestor." Xiaoxi's demeanor right now was extremely respectful, but his heart was pounding. Although he wasn't qualified to join the founding Ancestor S birthday celebration, he had heard plenty of rumors. Among these rumors, the one that was talked about the most was that the founding Ancestor accepted a new disciple, the 7th disciple of the Purple Division, Wang Lin. As soon as this Wang Lin entered the Purple Division, he completely turned it upside down. After brutally killing the Purple Division S second brother, he even joined the fight for the title of True Disciple. This person used his mid-stage soul transformation cultivation to fight the 4th sister of the Purple Division, who was at the late stage of soul transformation, and won. But this was not the important part of the rumor. The important part was that the 6th brother of the Purple Division, who was an ascendant cultivator, suddenly returned, and a great battle started. Although Wang Lin lost this battle, all of the Heavenly Fate sect disciples' view of him changed greatly. The 3 killing spells became Wang Lin's signature move, and the powerful demonic aura gave Wang Lin a peerless aura. These various rumors passed through many people before finally reaching Xiaoxia's ears. As far as he knew, this Wang Lin was a demonic cultivator, who not only had a bad temper but would immediately kill anyone who irritated him. "Open the formation to Earth planet." Wang Lin's voice was calm. He stepped past Xiaoxia and directly entered the transfer array. When he was in the air, he had already observed his transfer array. This array took up an almost 5-kilometer wide area and had countless complex symbols carved into the ground. Waves of powerful aura came out from the array and spread out. From a distance, it looked like there was dense fog here that prevented people from getting a better look. There were countless ravines within this 5-kilometer area. They were like intertwining rivers before they all flowed into the ocean. There was a mysterious power that moved through these ravines filled with energy. The transfer array that covered this 5-kilometer area no longer looked like a transfer array. It was more like a primal beast. The complexity of this array was already far beyond any other transfer array Wang Lin had seen before. Xiaoxi took a deep breath and immediately responded. He went to the side of the transfer array, formed a seal, and sent a ray of green light toward it. At the moment the green light entered the transfer array, the giant transfer array began to rumble. In the end, it was like the heavens were shaking. The mysterious power inside the complex ravines began to gradually spread out and emit a ghostly light. At this moment, if one were looking from above, they would see sections of the ravines gradually lighting up to form a giant symbol. This was a symbol that covered a 5-kilometer wide area, and its complexity was unimaginable. At this moment, Wang Lin was standing at the center of this symbol. In almost the blink of an eye, the giant symbol released a powerful glow. This light covered the area, and at that moment, the heavens and earth were covered in a ghostly light. Xiaoxi was already used to this, so as soon as the array lit up, he closed his eyes. After counting 5 seconds, he opened them. There was no one left inside the array, and everything was the same as before. Only the ghostly light remained. It looked like a cloud of fireflies as it slowly drifted back into the ravines. Xiaoxi looked at the empty transfer array with envy in his yes. Then he let out a sigh and muttered to himself, "I wonder what this Purple Division's 7th ancestor is going to the Earth planet for. Well, this has nothing to do with me, and I should focus on cultivating so I can reach the late stage of soul formation as soon as possible." Xiaoxi shook his head and then sat down and continued cultivating. The Earth planet was one of the 5 planets orbiting planet Tianyun. From a distance, it was completely earth yellow, and there were countless halos moving over its surface. The size of this planet was around the same as planet Suzaku. The Xuanyuan sect was the only rank 6 cultivation country on this planet. The entire Xuanyuan sect was one country, and it had countless cultivators. Their ancestor was named Xuanming. His cultivation was already past the ascendant stage. There was very little sea on this planet, so most of it was land. Millions of miles to the west of Xuanyuan was where the rank cultivation country of Lingyu lied. On this day, the area around the transfer array next to the Xuanyuan sect had been cleaned out. There was no one but disciples of the sect within dozens of meters of the array. Outside the transfer array, the junior sect master of the Xuanyuan sect, Shu Yunshan, silently stood there. He had a treasured fan that he would occasionally hit his palm with. 3 days ago he heard from a good friend in the Heavenly Fate sect that someone from the Purple Division was going to come to become the messenger for Ling Yu. Normally Shu Yunshan wouldn't care about a small matter like this, but when he learned that the person that was coming was the Purple Division's seventh brother, the new disciple that the All-Seer had just accepted, Wang Lin, he suddenly had a change of heart. As someone from the rank cultivation country that was under the control of planet Tanyun, he had a detailed recording of each of the All-Seer's disciples to note their preferences. His main focus was normally the true disciples, and he normally wouldn't care about Wang Lin if not for the fact that the All-Seer seemed to have been paying close attention to him during the birthday celebration. This Wang Lin had appeared out of nowhere, so the Xuan Yuan sect knew very little about him. Also, from the Xuan Yuan sect's point of view, Wang Lin had a lot of potential. It was better to make friends now rather than later, and that was why this was happening. Behind Shu Yunshan stood several old people. They all had heads of white hair and were the most powerful of the Xuan Yuan sect's elders. Time slowly passed until it was noon. When the sun was at its highest, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the transfer array. The rumbling noise caught Shu Yunshan's attention. He put away the treasured fan, put on a smile, and looked at the transfer array. The rumbling sound became louder and louder. Ghostly light came out from the ground and covered the sky to form an illusionary symbol. At the center of the symbol, space bent and a person slowly walked out. This person was wearing a purple robe, and there was a 7 carved onto the purple token on his waist. Urgently wishing for all friends to push around a video, Leo is extremely grateful. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 506 Messenger. The symbol above the array slowly disappeared. Wang Lin walked out of the array and calmly looked around before his gaze landed on Shu Yunshan. Shu Yunshan's eyes narrowed before he let out a laugh and asked, "Are you Wang Lin, the All-Seer's disciple?" Wang Lin's expression was calm as he clasped his hands. "I am. Sir is?" Shu Yunshan smiled and said, "I am the junior sect master of the Xuan Yuan sect of Earth Planet. I am here to do my duty as a host. Brother Wang, please don't refuse." "Then I'll bother Brother Shu." Wang Lin faintly smiled. This Shu Yunshan's cultivation level was the same as his, mid-stage of soul transformation. He left the Heavenly Fate sect because he wanted a quiet place to cultivate. There was too much competition and fighting at the Heavenly Fate sect, so it was not suited for cultivation. He had just arrived on the planet, and couldn't simply refuse his host's hospitality. Shu Yunshan laughed and talked the entire way. After telling Wang Lin about the situation on the planet, he arranged a very beautiful and peaceful place for Wang Lin to stay. After setting their meeting time tomorrow, Shu Yunshan left. The environment here was very graceful and quiet. Wang Lin went inside the room, opened the window and looked outside. Delicate flowers covered the area and were all competing with each other to bloom. Wang Lin opened the door and slowly walked through this flower garden. The most important thing right now is to raise my cultivation level. Although I have been away from planet Suzaku for a few years now, Tuo-sen is still like a sword hanging above my head. He can leave the land of ancient God at any time, and when he does, he will definitely come for me. Wang Lin frowned. The matter with Tuo-sen was like having a fishbone stuck in his throat. It was like an invisible whip that forced him to continue cultivating so that he could continue to survive. While looking at the beautiful flowers in the garden, Wang Lin began to ponder. Celestial slaughter art, I was able to study it for a bit on the way here. It is indeed an exquisite art. To use life force seals to protect my body can indeed create a powerful defense. The heaven-defying bead is still missing the metal element for it to be complete. The matter of getting metal element is another thing I need to resolve as soon as possible. Situ Nan thinks that the heaven-defying bead will only recognize an owner after the 5 elements are complete. At that moment, will it finally be able to show its real power? However, he doesn't know what kind of power the heaven-defying bead has for the Cultivation Alliance to fight over it. I wonder how things are going on planet Suzaku. Wang Lin raised his head to look into the void. His gaze seemed to travel an unfathomable distance and landed on the faraway planet Suzaku. After staying at the Xuan Yuan sect for 2 days, Shu Yunshan guided Wang Lin to the rank 5 cultivation country of Ling Yu. In these 2 days, Shu Yunshan was a good talker. After making an effort to get to know Wang Lin, they got along well. The country of Ling Yu already knew that a core disciple of the Purple Division was being sent as the messenger. The entire country put this as top priority and had everything prepared to greet the messenger. At the border of Ling Yui, Shu Yunshan faintly smiled and said, "Brother Wang, this is the rank 5 cultivation country of Ling Yu. This country isn't very big. It only has 4 sects. But this country produces a lot of spirit items and is very famous on this planet." Wang Lin nodded. The two of them moved very fast as they passed the border and quickly entered the country of Ling Yu. At the center of Ling Yu, there was a heaven-ascending tower. This was where all the messengers lived. There were more than 100 cultivators standing outside the tower, waiting for the arrival of the messenger. Not long after, 2 rays of light came from the horizon, breaking the sound barrier. At this moment, the people at the foot of the tower all raised their heads. When the 2 rays of light closed in, the cultivators at the foot of the tower respectfully said, "The cultivators of Ling Yu greet the Heavenly Fate Sect S Lord Messenger and the Xuan Yuan Sect S Junior Sect Master." Shu Yuanshan laughed and said, "I'll say goodbye now. If I have time in the future, we can drink and talk again." With that, Shu Yunshan flew off into the distance. After Shu Yunshan left, Wang Lin was the only one left in the sky. He floated in the air and calmly looked at the people below him. Among the more than 100 cultivators here, 10 of them were at the highest cultivation level, the late stage of soul transformation. Everyone else's cultivation levels were a bit low. Among these people, one of them caught Wang Lin's attention. This person had a head of white hair and looked very old. He was the one with the highest cultivation level here. He was basically half a step into the ascendant stage. Wang Lin slowly descended and landed at the base of the tower. He didn't let those cultivators before him speak before calmly saying, "Although I am the messenger, I won't bother you with anything. Keep doing what you were doing before. I am going to go into closed-door cultivation, so no one is allowed within 5,000 kilometers of here." The surrounding cultivators were all startled, but all of these cultivators had lived for a long time and were all as sly as foxes. After the initial startle, they all quickly responded and scattered. The old man, who was half a step into the ascendant stage, carefully looked at Wang Lin before leaving. The cultivators beside the old man quickly followed him. In an instant, the base of the tower was devoid of anyone beside Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was normal as he waved his sleeves and walked into the tower. Once he was inside, he sat down in the lotus position and slapped his bag of holding to take out the restriction flag. With one shake of the flag, countless strands of black gas charged out of the tower and covered the surrounding 5,000 kilometers. The surrounding 5,000-kilometer area was suddenly covered in a black fog and gave off a gloomy aura. After finishing all of this, Wang Lin pondered a bit before hitting his forehead with his palm and spitting out a 30-foot-long flag. Although the 1 billion soul flag had lost most of its soul fragments, there were still several primary souls left. Wang Lin shook the flag, causing the primary souls to be released into the black fog to increase protection. He released every primary soul except for the Kilian soul fragment, because that wouldn't be convenient to release. After doing all of this, Wang Lin took a deep breath. Then he waved his hand and a jade appeared. This jade was completely gray. It was the one that the gray-robed ulcer gave him. The Celestial Slaughter Art. Celestial Slaughter Art. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Then his divine sense entered the jade. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, 1 month went by. In this past month, none of the sects of Ling Yu could figure out this new messenger. Normally, when a messenger came, they would demand spirit stones and celestial jades. In order to avoid trouble, they would always give them some. This had basically become a tradition. But now this person who came from planet Tianyun and was even the disciple of the ulcer didn't leave the tower for an entire month. The surrounding area was also covered in a black fog, causing normal people to not dare to take one step into the area. There were some soul transformation cultivators who wanted to enter to see what was going on, but after going 1,000 feet deep into the fog, they all quickly retreated with ugly expressions. The new messenger gradually became more mysterious in the eyes of the cultivators of Ling Yu. At this moment, inside the tower, Wang Lin was still sitting in the lotus position. He looked exactly the same as he did 1 month ago. He spent this entire month of studying the contents of the jade. The Celestial Slaughter Art was, in fact, a life force seal. meaning it was not something that could easily be comprehended. Wang Lin's talent was already not very good, and the celestial slaughter art was very complex. He could only slowly think about it and carefully experiment to gradually master it. Wang Lin knew that he couldn't rush this. Time continued to pass, and another half a month went by. Not only did the cultivators of Lingyu not lose interest in this messenger, they became even more interested. This was because there was a change in the black fog surrounding the tower. In the first month it was quiet, but in the last half month, there were loud whistling sounds. It was as if there were many flying swords flying back and forth through the area. There were also thunderous roars that could shake the heavens coming out from the black fog. This made all of the cultivators of Lingyu even more curious. Finally, the old man, who was half a step into the ascendant stage, stood up and took a trip to the tower. 3 days later, the old man came back. His expression was very ugly, and his eyes were filled with shock. After he came back, all of the sects sent out a message saying that no disciple is allowed within 5,000 kilometers of the tower, or else they would be punished as a traitor. As a result, the area of 5,000 kilometers around the tower became a forbidden zone in Lingyu. Wang Lin spent the entire month and a half studying the celestial slaughter art. This art depended on slaughter, so the more one killed, more seals would stack on top of each other. Once the seals stack to a certain point, it will become the strongest defense in the world. However, this art was very difficult to cultivate. After 1.5 months of time, Wang Lin still couldn't find the essence to it and finally decided to give up on it for now. Instead, he decided to comprehend the heavens so that he could continue to refine his current spells. During that time, he encountered a backlash from the war chariot. This was the first backlash after he released the first seal. Wang Lin was already prepared for this, and after battling with the beast for several days, he used a secret spell to suppress it. The spirit beast's backlash failed. The old man from Lingyu entered the area during that time, and personally saw the unyielding spirit beast. After suppressing the war chariot, Wang Lin silently cultivated for several days. On this day, he suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes showed signs of enlightenment. The celestial slaughter art should be comprehended amid slaughter. Trying to comprehend it by just sitting here is a bit lacking. If I really want to cultivate this art, then everything must start with slaughter. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Then he stood up, took one step, and stepped directly out of the tower. Embarrassed, I've been remiss in saying thank you. Thank you all for pressing the like button. Thanks to the fellow Taoists for their praise. Chapter Earth, Northern Demonic Lands. Wang Lin was floating 10,000 feet above the tower. With eyes bright as torches, he raised his right hand and all the black fog began rushing toward him. It looked like the black fog was being pushed from its outer rim toward Wang Lin. The sky and clouds changed color. Roaring thunder echoed from within the clouds. These thunderous roars spread out and echoed across all of Lingyu. In almost the blink of an eye, all of the black fog within 5,000 kilometers gathered in his hand in the form of a ball the size of a baby's head, and it had lightning running through it. The ball was filled with fog and flashes of the restrictions. There was also a powerful pressure coming out of it as it flickered. Wang Lin squeezed his hand, and the flashing restriction inside suddenly collapsed and turned into countless strands of black gas which started to circle around him. Finally, the strands of black gas intertwined before him to form a golden-purple flag. The flag waved without any wind and created bursts of flapping sounds. At this moment, the surrounding 5,000-kilometer area was clear, but there were still some roars coming from the void, and flashes of black shadows could be seen. Primary souls, return! Wang Lin opened his mouth, and the primary souls rushed back into it, and then to the soul flag inside his origin soul. While I am cultivating the celestial slaughter art, I might as well refine the soul flag too. Then my chance of survival on planet Tianyun will increase. Also, Master wants me to go to the Eastern Demon Sea in 3 months. Now I only have 1.5 months left. Should I go or not? Wang Lin's divine sense spread across Lingyun before his body turned into smoke and disappeared. Lingyue, 5 Spirit Mountain. The #1 cultivator in Lingyu, the old man who was half a step into the ascendant stage, was Old Man Tiantai of 5 Spirit Mountain. He was currently sitting at the top of 5 Spirit Mountain, absorbing the power of the moon and cultivating. Old Man Tiantai opened his eyes. They were calm as he looked at the void and slowly said, "Old Man Tiantai greets Lord Messenger. A ray of purple light appeared in the void as Wang Lin appeared. He clasped his hands at Old Man Tiantai and said, "Sorry to bother you." Old Man Tiantai took a deep breath and shook his head. It was I who was rude. If I didn't break the rule and enter the area last time, and surprise that unyielding beast, I believe Lord Messenger would have had an easier time taming it. No problem. Wang Lin's gaze was calm as he looked at Old Man Tiantai. This old man had already reached Tao-seeking part of the path to the ascendant stage. This was a very important stage for any late-stage soul transformation cultivator. It was a matter of life and death. One can be seeking Tao in the morning and be dead by night. The old man slightly closed his eyes and said, with a deep voice, "Since Lord Messenger isn't here about me entering the area, then what is Lord Messenger looking for an old man who is half a step into the grave for?" Wang Lin looked at the distance and slowly said, "Does this planet have any demonic beast gathering grounds?" Old Man Tiantai's eyes became serious, and he began to ponder. Shortly after, he waved his hand and a jade suddenly appeared. He said, "Lord Messenger, there are 3 demonic beast gathering grounds on the planet, and they are recorded here." After accepting the jade, Wang Lin swept it with his divine sense. He nodded toward the old man before disappearing without a trace. Old Man Tiantai looked at where Wang Lin disappeared before slowly closing his eyes and muttering to himself, "This child is filled with brewing killing intent. His trip this time is to kill. I hope that no one offends him along the way." At the northern end of planet Earth, there are dense mountains that cover millions of kilometers. That place is a gathering ground for demonic beasts. There are even desolate beasts as powerful as ascendant cultivators there. That place is also where all the disciples on the planet test themselves. However, the 300,000-kilometer area at the center is considered a forbidden area, and one shouldn't casually enter it. Wang Lin put the jade away. Then he locked on to the direction he wanted to go, waved his right hand in the air, and a silver light suddenly appeared before him. Wang Lin began taking steps inside the silver light. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. As if he were walking up a flight of stairs, he took 10 steps in a row. 10 steps was what he could currently withstand to teleport at once. After 10 steps, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and his body flickered. At this moment, his body began to flash violently. Finally, there was a thunderous roar, and once the sound disappeared, there was no one there anymore. A large amount of silver light suddenly appeared in the clear sky in the northern part of the planet. The clear blue sky began to change as ripples silently appeared and began to spread. After a few breaths of time, there was a bright flash of silver light at the center of the ripples. The brightness of the silver light could match the sun. It was as if there were 2 suns, one golden and one silver. Wang Lin's figure stepped out from the silver light. His face was a bit pale, and his breathing was a bit heavy. Only after he took out a pill and ate it did he slowly start to feel better. After he appeared, the silver light slowly disappeared, and the change in the sky slowly returned to normal. Wang Lin didn't stop. He turned into a ray of light and charged toward the dense mountain range ahead of him. The ground before him was no longer an earthy yellow. It now had a layer of blue, ghostly light above it. There was a giant stone tablet that someone had placed into the ground with a powerful spell. There were several large red words filled with killing intent carved onto the tablet. Earth Northern Demonic Lands. These 4 large words gave off a powerful aura that seemed to come at you like a tidal wave. The aura caused the surroundings to have a constant gust of wind that whistled on endlessly. As Wang Lin stood under the giant tablet, he raised his head and silently looked at it for a long time. There was a thin layer of mist behind the tablet, but it didn't conceal anything. If one looked carefully or spread out their divine sense, they would clearly see what was there. There was an endless stretch of mountain ranges behind the tablet. There were no roads, the ground was covered in leaves, and the air was filled with a rotting smell. Aside from this, the area was completely silent and without a sign of life. Even though it was daytime, there was a very cold aura coming out from the ground and spreading across the area. Wang Lin carefully looked at it for a while. After pondering a bit, he raised his foot and stepped toward the mountain range. The celestial slaughter art must be experienced during slaughter. Today I'll use this place to begin my cultivation of the celestial slaughter art. Just at this moment, several rays of sword energy appeared in the horizon. These sword energies were of all different bright colors and were emitting powerful energy. It was clear that none of these people had weak cultivation. Senior apprentice brother, we are here. Before the sword energy closed in, a voice came from one of them. Wang Lin's stride didn't even slightly pause because of the appearance of these people. He continued to step into the mountain range, and his figure disappeared into the thin layer of mist. Shortly after his figure disappeared, several rays of sword energy landed before the tablet, revealing 5 people. Among the 5, 3 were male and 2 were female. Their clothes were clearly divided into 2 different styles, and all 5 of them were dressed well, were good-looking, and had powerful auras. Of the 2 females, one of them was wearing a red dress and had a beauty mark above her mouth. She softly said, "Senior apprentice brother, I think I just saw someone enter this area." This girl didn't look every old, but her cultivation level was at the late stage of core formation. Among the 3 males, there was one who was very good-looking and middle-aged. He was wearing a green and white robe, his hair was tied up with simple black belt, and he had an ordinary sword on his back. After he heard the girl, he faintly smiled and said, "This is not a forbidden place, and a lot of different people from different sects come here to train, so there is nothing strange about seeing other people here. Once Uncle Master and them arrive, we will go inside together. At that time, all the cultivators we meet will avoid us, so you don't have to worry about it." Another one of the males among the 3, who looked like he was 20 or so years old and was wearing a blue robe, smiled and said, "That's right. Brother Guo belongs to the Dalu Sword Sect, which is one of the top 2 sects on planet Tianyun. Even if he meets disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect, if they are too weak, they will still avoid him. There is no need to talk about the small sects on planet Earth." As for the remaining male and female, they were both silent. They didn't say a word. The woman even showed a hint of hatred when she looked at the 3, especially toward the man named Guo, and her hatred wasn't hidden at all. In terms of appearance, this woman was considered the prettier of the 2. She was wearing a white cotton dress. On her waist, she used a light blue silk ribbon to tie an elegant bow, and there was a rose hairpin on her silky ink-black hair. Her skin was as smooth and flawless as jade without any need for makeup, and if it wasn't for the hatred on her face, she would be even more beautiful. The man named Guo faintly smiled. He didn't seem to care about the woman at all and softly said, "Lady Xianxia, you can relax. I promise to leave 1 brilliant golden fruit for you, enough for you to bring back to your sect." The woman named Xianxia's face was filled with killing intent as she stared at the man named Guo and coldly said, "Even with how famous the Daluo sword sect is, I can believe you would use such despicable methods. I am truly blind to have believed in you." The man named Guo shook his head and said, "If one has the luck, anyone can obtain these heavenly treasures. The brilliant golden fruit is of great use to my uncle master. Since you asked me for help, then I must report it to my sect." Wang Lin's figure moved inside this mountain range like lightning, and his eyes became cold. Dalu sword sect, interesting. This will be a good chance to try to find some information on Senior Zhou Yi's location. I just want to know what that brilliant golden fruit is. Feebly asking, 4,000 words, does that count as a major chapter? Could it be hoping for the like button for the video and the followers too? Chapter 50, Exchange. 4. He is Lu Song. I heard from the elders that he is the #1 genius in the Hang Yue sect. Xuan Dao sect is going to lose for sure. Senior bother, go. I will follow your example. The Hang Yue sect disciples all cheered with excitement. All of the confidence they lost from the first 2 losses had started to come back. Some of the female disciples became love-struck and felt dependent on Lu Song. Huang Long also smiled faintly. He thought that since Lu Song had come out this time, he would win this round for sure. Wang Zhuo jealously looked at Lu Song and softly snorted. Even the Xuan Dao sect disciples were filled with shock. Lu Song's fame was something they had heard of as they grew up in the past 20 years. Although Lu Song ultimately lost in the exchange, he still left a deep impression in the elders' minds. Elder Ouyang's face darkened. He said, "Shumu, I'll allow you to remove Ancestor S seal to use your full power." Shumu's expression became serious. He opened up his shirt and revealed a yellow talisman on his chest. The elders of the Hang Yue sect were stunned. After carefully looking at the talisman, they all revealed shocked expressions. Wang Long asked, "Friend Ouyang, this talisman?" Elder Ouyang's eyes lit up. He indifferently said, "Wang Long, this is something that I'll explain to you at another time. In this exchange today, I'll add another condition. if our Xuan Dao sect wins this time, you have to lend us the Hang Yu Mountain for 500 years. Everyone's expressions changed. Huang Long narrowed his eyes and said, "Are you joking, friend Ouyang?" Elder Ouyang shook his head. He said, "Wang Long, as you can see, this talisman can be created by someone not of the nascent soul stage. To tell you the truth, an ancestor of the Xuan Dao sect returned from the battlefield of a rank country and told me that all of the ancestors of the Hang Yue sect have died." Huang Long's expression changed. After pondering for a long time, he said, "Elder Ouyang, stop this nonsense, otherwise, don't blame the Hang Yue sect for not showing mercy." Elder Ouyang smiled and said, "Our Xuan Dao sect hasn't take this mountain by force yet because of our friendship, so we will give you guys a fair chance in this exchange. If the Hang Yue sect wins this time, then we will leave you guys be. I already passed my message. Huang Long, let us continue this exchange." The inner disciples of the Hang Yu sect were all confused, but all of them felt giant rocks weighing down their hearts. Even the sky felt like it had darkened. Wang Lin was alarmed. It seemed that what Situ Nan said was true. The cultivation world really was separated by ranks. Sun Daju's face was pale and his eyes were dull. He muttered to himself, "Over it is, all of the Hang Yu sect's ancestors are dead. Before, we could at least rely on the ancestors to intimidate the other sects and barely hold on. But now that the ancestors are dead, it's all over. Damn it. If it wasn't for the rank countries invading 500 years ago to steal the Dragon Star and resulting in the country calling away all its nascent soul cultivators, the Hang Yue sect wouldn't be in the state it's in now." Wang Long saw his fellow brothers and inner disciples' uneasiness. He suppressed the unrest in his heart and shouted, "Everyone in the Hang Yue sect, stop panicking. Whether this is true or not will be checked by the core formation elder. What are you all worrying about? Lu Song, continue the exchange." Lu Song, who was on the stage, was also shocked by Ouyang's words, but he regained his composure. He opened his mouth and spat out a purple fog. The fog grew until it became a giant hand and grabbed towards Xu Mu. Xu Mu's expression slightly changed. He didn't say a word and slammed his bag of holding. 6 golden balls flew out and went toward the hand. Lu Song coldly smiled. His hand formed a seal, and the giant hand waved in the air, causing an evil wind that moved the golden balls off course. This evil wind also caused the spiritual energy in Xu Mu's body to go out of control. He quickly shouted, "Explode!" The 6 golden balls simultaneously exploded. The explosion released shock waves that blew all of the audience back a bit. Lu Song snorted and mocked. A small trick. The giant hand formed a fist. Ignoring the explosion, the fist quickly slammed down. Xu Mu's face was pale. Seeing that the hand was about to land on him, he clenched his teeth and took out a yellow talisman. The talisman looked plain. Xu Mu bit his tongue and sprayed out some blood. The blood mist in the air quickly transformed into liquid and formed a blood dragon. Xu Mu didn't bat an eye and formed a seal with his hand. The blood dragon twisted and turned. It formed into a strange image that imprinted onto the talisman. The yellow talisman suddenly started to glow a glaring light, as if it were a small sun. The fist dissipated in front of everyone's eyes. After Wang Lin saw this, he was shocked. He had one of those talismans as well. "It is a magic talisman." Lu Song frowned. He waved his sleeves and 2 white dragons flew out. The white dragons flew around once and charged at Xu Mu at lightning speed. Xu Mu let out a pitiful laugh. He used all of his energy to resist the giant fist that came down on him. He had no energy to stop those 2 white dragons at all. Seeing that the 2 white dragons were already showing their ferocious teeth at the most dangerous moment, a cold snort came from the Xuan Dao sect disciples. Shortly after, a black rainbow shot out from the Xuan Dao sect and easily surrounded the 2 white dragons. With a cracking sound, the 2 white dragons quickly disappeared and turned into 2 silver swords. The black rainbow tightened again and broke the 2 swords in half. Lu Song's expression suddenly changed. The flying swords linked to his soul were broken, which caused him to cough out a mouthful of blood. His face revealed a horrified expression. The giant hand above Xu Mu's head dissipated as well, since Lu Song couldn't keep his concentration. Xu Mu quickly left with the yellow talisman with the look of him getting lucky today. Lu Song also walked off the stage with a bleak expression. Huang Long's face sank. He shouted, "Xuan Dao sect, don't go too far." The elders beside him also became enraged. Some of the more ill-tempered elders already took out their treasures, ready to fight. The inner disciples also saw what was going out and became angry. The remaining 2 yellow-clothed disciples all looked at the middle-aged man standing in the back of the Xuan Dao sect. It was him who let out that cold snort earlier. Elder Ouyang turned back and looked at the middle-aged man. He warily smiled and said, "This 3rd round is won by the Hangyue sect. As for what just happened, Old man Ouyang don't say any more pointless words. This Hangyue sect is only mediocre." The middle-aged man standing in the back slowly walked forward. As he took a step, the ground suddenly split, and the crack extended all the way to the stage. Leo dreams of getting a lot of likes for this video, having many followers, plenty of shares, and everyone praising his good reading and the number of words he can read. So happy. Chapter 508, Evolution of the Mosquito Beast. 3 hours later, under the stone tablet, 3 rays of light came from the horizon. They were followed by a series of thunderous sonic booms. These 3 rays of light descend from the sky with the pressure of a 10,000-man army. They landed directly next to the 7 people waiting beneath the stone tablet. Following the thunderous roar, their landing created a gust of wind that blew everyone but the man named Guo back several feet. Their faces were all extremely pale and filled with fear. After the gust passed, 3 figures were revealed. All 3 of them were white-haired old men, and a powerful sword energy could be felt from underneath each of their black robes. Each one of them had a treasure sword that gave off waves of sword pressure on their backs. Among the 3, only one person was at the late stage of soul formation. The other 2 were at the early stage of soul transformation. Once the man named Guo saw the 3 of them, his heart trembled. He immediately bowed and respectfully said, "6th-generation disciple Guo Xingyi greets Uncle Master." The person he bowed to was the only soul formation cultivator among the 3. Guo Xingyi's expression was extremely respectful. The soul formation old man smiled, nodded, and said, "Guo Xingyi, come and greet the 2 sword pavilion elders." He moved to the side and gave Guo Xingyi a look. Guo Xingyi quickly kneeled down on one knee and said, with even more respect than before, "Disciple greets elders." One of the 2 early-stage soul transformation old men was short and the other one was tall. The tall one said, "Stand up and speak. Was the brilliant golden fruit found by you?" Guo Xingyi quickly got up, then he pointed at the woman, Xianxia, who still hadn't said a word and simply looked at him with a cold gaze. This woman is Junior's good friend. The brilliant golden fruits were found by her sect, but there were demonic beasts guarding them, and they couldn't obtain them with their power. Junior just happened to pass by and agreed to go with them. The 2 soul transformation elders looked at each. The short one asked, "Little girl, how many brilliant golden fruits did you see?" Xianxia originally wasn't willing to speak, but under the old man's lightning-like gaze, she couldn't help but softly say, "There are about 100 fruits." 100. The short old man's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "The demonic beasts guarding 100 brilliant golden fruits must be extremely powerful. For your sect to find it, they aren't simple." Xianxia didn't speak, but the white-robed man beside her said, "With indignation, my sect expended a lot of effort and sacrificed several elders to find the brilliant golden fruits. Your Dalu sword sect." Xianxia frowned and shouted, "Shut up!" The man's face was filled with anger. He took a deep breath, turned his head, and no longer spoke. Guo Xingyi hesitated for a bit before respectfully saying, "Lord Elder, Xianxia is Junior's good friend. After obtaining the brilliant golden fruits, would it be possible to give her one?" The tall old man laughed and said, "If we can find them, then I'll give her one." "Lead the way." Xianxia let out a sigh and held some complex feelings in her heart. She had no choice but to lead the way, or else it would affect her sect. With how tyrannical the Daluo sword sect was, anyone that dared to go against them would be wiped out. Not to mention the fact that just these 2 elders here gave off an aura that was several times more powerful than the head elder of her sect. Compared to the Dalu sword sect, her sect was like a firefly. They stood no chance of resisting. Guo Xingyin, to abuse my trust, Xianxia felt bitter in her heart. She gave Guo Xingyi a vicious look before clenching her jaw and walking into the earth northern demonic lands. The white-robed man that belonged to the same sect as her followed with a gloomy expression. The people of the Daluo sword sect walked into the thin mist and disappeared. Wang Lin was making his way through the earth northern demonic land. He had his hands behind his back and his feet were 3 inches off the ground as he flew through the area. He was still comprehending the various changes in the celestial slaughter art and how to change life force into a life force seal. The surrounding mountain range was completely silent without any sign of life. As he was flying, a ghostly light flashed a bit before him. Then a figure suddenly shot out of hiding and charged at Wang Lin. The figure's speed was too fast, and in the blink of an eye it arrived before him. It was surrounded by a layer of black fog, and a bloody smell rushed toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's body didn't stop. His expression didn't even change. At the moment the black figure closed in, he rubbed his right hand's fingers and pointed at it. He directly stabbed his finger into the black fog. A ray of gray gas came out from Wang Lin's fingertip. However, this gray gas was extremely weak, so right after it appeared, a majority of it disappeared. Not much gray gas had entered the black figure. A sizzling sound suddenly came out from the black fog. It was as if snow was melting. The black fog boiled until it finally dissipated, revealing a fist-sized beast. This small beast didn't have any limbs, only a big mouth. There were no teeth, but a sour smell came from within its mouth. The spit of this beast was clearly very powerful. At this moment, Wang Lin's finger directly stabbed into the small creature's body. He moved his finger around, causing the small beast's body to shatter into pieces and disappear. Wang Lin withdrew his finger and continued to move. As he withdrew his finger, strands of gray gas came from the shattered remains of the small beast and circled around his finger. The celestial slaughter art harvests life force during slaughter. I just don't know if what I have between my fingers is life force. Wang Lin lowered his head to look at the gray gas around his finger. After pondering for a bit, he continued flying. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin moved very quickly but didn't go too deep into the area. He had his divine sense spread out and locked onto the people of the Daluo sword sect. Their every move was clearly seen by Wang Lin's divine sense. They could hide nothing. Wang Lin wanted to see what exactly this brilliant golden fruit was. He also wanted to use the people of the Daluo sword sect, especially those 2 soul transformation old men, as practice for his celestial slaughter art. Even now, Wang Lin didn't have any goodwill toward the Daluo sword sect. Right now, as Wang Lin flew through the mountain range, the gray gas around his fingers was several times thicker than before. The strands of gray gas were like strings that quickly circled Wang Lin's fingers. There was no lack of demonic beasts here in the Earth Northern demonic land. However, none of them were a threat to Wang Lin. If it wasn't for his desire to see what that brilliant golden fruit was, Wang Lin would have already gone deeper into the area to practice the celestial slaughter art with the powerful creatures. On this day, Wang Lin withdrew his finger from the head of a bull that had the power of a soul formation cultivator. At the moment he withdrew his finger, a thick stand of gray gas came out from the bull's forehead and circled his finger. The bull's body trembled and its gaze slowly faded until it fell down and remained motionless. Just at this moment, a ray of black lightning came from the distance. Along with a fierce roar, the mosquito's ferocious body appeared next to Wang Lin. Its large mouth stabbed into the bull's head, and with one suck, it sucked all the blood, flesh, essence, and the core of the bull. Only the bull's skeleton was left on the ground. After the mosquito beast finished sucking, a white light appeared around it. After flashing a few times, the white light disappeared, causing the terrifying hair on the mosquito beast to look even more fierce. The mosquito beast was very happy and began to fly in circles before Wang Lin. Along the way, every time Wang Lin killed a soul formation or above beast, he would call out the mosquito beast so it could absorb the beast's essence and core in order to stimulate the mosquito's growth. If it wasn't for the fact that the thunder toad wasn't suited for this method of growth, he would have released the thunder toad as well. The mosquito was, after all, a beast from the stars. Although it appeared on planet Suzaku for some reason back then, its ferocity was not something a beast from a cultivation planet could match. This beast lived to devour. It could devour any kind of beast in the world, and the more it devours, the stronger it becomes. After it started following Wang Lin, it had devoured countless pills, heavenly treasures, cores, and the like. Although its strength was still at the nascent soul stage, even some soul formation beasts would be affected by its ferocity. Wang Lin's body moved forward and floated in the air. Then the mosquito let out a roar and moved. It moved like lightning and appeared below Wang Lin's feet. Then it brought Wang Lin deep into the mountain range. As it flew, Wang Lin noticed something. The mosquito beast also noticed it and immediately stopped. It remained motionless as it waited for Wang Lin's order. Wang Lin looked toward the south, revealed a smile, and muttered to himself, "Did they find the brilliant golden fruit?" With a thought, the mosquito moved toward the south without a sound. It was like a ghost tonight. However, its eyes were filled with bloodlust and lit up like a ghostly flame. Wang Lin paid attention to the changes happening to the mosquito beast in these past few days. The mosquito beast seemed to be at a critical stage and was about to make a breakthrough. Every time the mosquito devoured the essence and core of a beast, there would be flashes of white light around it, just like when it devoured those white lines from the chaotic broken stars. Looking at the ghostly light in the mosquito's eyes, an image suddenly appeared inside Wang Lin's mind. On a certain large planet, there were countless mosquito beasts that covered the entire sky. Their gazes were all bright like ghostly flames. 3,000 words in a major chapter. Wish that the like button for the video would break. Chapter 509, Multitude Bug. The people of the Dalua sword sect moved quickly. They didn't make any stops and charged toward their destination, following Xianxia's guidance. Along the way, if any beast appeared, the two soul transformation elders would only need to send out a seal and the beast would be turned to dust. Their power was beyond Xianxia's comprehension. Her own sect spent a lot of effort to get here, and seeing the beasts that gave her sect so much trouble destroyed so easily made her heart feel bitter. At this moment, she thought that this was all fate. If she could get just one fruit out of this trip, that would be enough. As for Guo Jingyin, he was very caring and kept trying to talk to Xianxia along the way. He was clearly trying to repair the relationship between them. After experiencing the power of the Dalu sword sect, she could only feel helpless and feign ignorance while enduring the humiliation. Along the way, Guo Jingyin's uncle master kept looking at Xianxia's voluptuous body, and his eyes revealed a mysterious light. The group was very relaxed because even if some powerful demonic beast showed up, the two soul transformation elders would easily take care of them. But in truth, after entering this place, the ones who were most nervous were the two Dalu sword sect elders. This wasn't the first time the two of them had entered the Earth Northern demonic land, but this time was the most bizarre. At the beginning, when they first entered, they didn't have this feeling, but as they went deeper, a pressure that could cause someone to completely break down slowly surrounded the area. This kind of feeling might have been too faint for the others to feel, but for the two early-stage soul transformation elders of the Dalu sword sect, this feeling was very strong. It was as if there was a pair of eyes watching them, but when they tried to check with their divine senses, they found nothing. It was like everything was just their own imagination. We haven't gone deep into the mountains, so there shouldn't be any desolate beasts around here. Why is this feeling so clear? Although the two elders looked very calm, they were nervously talking to each other through their divine senses as they trailed behind the group. Maybe something happened here. In these past 10 days, this feeling has constantly been there, but both of us have been checking our surroundings and nothing has happened. I think that whatever it is not targeting the two of us. Forget it. This place is simply too strange. Once we are done with the matter at hand, it is best for us to leave as soon as possible. Every second we stay here is making it more difficult for me to breathe. It's as if there's a large mountain weighing down on top of me. There is even a feeling like I am about to collapse, lose control, and kill someone. This is a feeling I haven't had since I reached the soul formation stage. The short old man's eyes lit up, and then he quickly sent his message. "Eh? You also have this urge to kill? When I was killing that beast earlier, I almost lost control of myself. Shi Fang, there is definitely something wrong here. Should we leave now?" The old man named Shi pondered a bit. Then he looked at the juniors before them and said, "We have already gotten this far, and there are only 3 days left. There shouldn't be any problems. We just need to increase our speed." The two of them looked at each other. They remained silent and continued to rush to their destination. The people before them, including the soul formation old man, didn't notice the fear that the two soul transformation cultivators were feeling. They continued to feel that the journey was going very smoothly. The brilliant golden fruit isn't meant to be eaten. It is a material for refining treasures. This fruit can increase the power of any metal element treasure, and the more one uses, the stronger the treasure becomes. Rumor has it that the 4 illusionary swords behind Sword Saint Ling Tianhu of the Dalu sword sect were refined with a large amount of brilliant golden fruits. However, the amount he used was beyond imagination, and that was how he refined those 4 peerless swords. The places where the brilliant golden fruit can grow are extremely unpredictable. The fruit is formed from natural metal element and is a heavenly treasure that can appear anywhere. Once this fruit begins to grow, it looks exactly the same as any other normal fruit, but once it matures, it suddenly changes and is filled with metal element. After it matures, the time before it falls off the tree varies greatly. It can be as short as a few breaths of time, or as long as several months. There is no rhyme or reason behind the time it takes for it to fall after it matures. Even to this day, no one knows. Once the fruit matures, it attracts many metal element beasts, and these beasts become its protectors. The beasts guard the fruit until it falls, and once the fruit falls, the withered fruit's energy is absorbed by the roots, forming golden spirit roots. When a beast eats the golden spirit root, their intelligence is awakened, and they gain many benefits. However, if too many brilliant golden fruits are taken before they fall, the formation of the golden spirit roots is affected. If too many fruits are taken, the golden spirit root won't form at all. After the Dalu sword sect people left, Wang Lin silently appeared on the mosquito's back. He looked toward where they were going, and casually followed behind them. Due to the oppressive feeling that the two elders were feeling, the entire group was forced to move faster, so the normal 3-day journey was complete in 1.5 days. At this moment, Xianxia, who had been leading the way, pointed forward and said, 2 months ago, Junior S sect found the brilliant golden fruits there. Everyone's gazes followed the woman's finger. This location was where 2 mountains met, and between them was a valley. It was really quiet here, not a sound could be heard, and the ground was covered in leaves that gave off a rotting smell. Following her finger, they could see a faint golden light coming from inside the valley, but there were many trees blocking the way, so it was hard to see exactly what was inside. After Xianxia finished speaking, she took a few steps back and remained silent. The 2 Dalu sword sect elders looked at each other. The taller one took a few steps out, his hand formed a seal, and he pressed his hand forward into the air. A thick amount of celestial spiritual energy suddenly gathered before him and blew toward the valley in a celestial gust. As the celestial gust flew across the area, the rotten leaves all disappeared, revealing what was underneath. All of the trees blocking the view were pushed apart by this celestial gust as well. A straight passage suddenly appeared before everyone. The end of the tunnel led deep into the valley. There was a ton of wild grass inside this valley, but everyone's gazes first fell to the eastern side of the valley. In the middle of an area covered in wild grass, there was a bunch of blooming golden flowers. There wasn't just one golden flower, but an entire field. There was at least a dozen of them, and they were all competing with each other to bloom. Below the flowers were oval-shaped fruits the size of a thumb. These fruits were golden and had countless granular spots on them. From a distance, they looked like grapes. They seemed very ordinary and not different from normal wild fruits. Brilliant golden fruit. It indeed is the brilliant golden fruit. The 2 elders' eyes immediately lit up once they saw the fruits. The 2 of them didn't immediately enter the valley but carefully checked it. Finally, their gazes landed on a bush of wild grass 1 meter from the brilliant golden fruits. There was a small pile of rotting leaves on top of that bush of wild grass. At first glance, there was nothing unusual about this. After all, these rotting leaves were very common here. At this moment, a strange wind blew through the valley, causing the grass to rustle. The grass rustled and all of the leaves inside the valley were moved by this gust of wind. However, it was these leaves flying into the air that caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. At the moment these leaves flew into the air, what was revealed on the backside of the leaves were countless red spots. Their red dots were motionless. It was as if they were growing from the rotting leaves. 9 multitude bug, the tall elder named Shi Fang said this with a gloomy expression and then looked toward the short elder. 100 brilliant golden fruits would naturally have fierce guardians. Having 9 multitude bugs here is nothing to be surprised about. However, dealing with these bugs requires bait. The short elder's eyes lit up as his gaze landed on Xianxia and the white-robed man beside her, and he revealed a cruel smile. At this moment, no one noticed that a ferocious figure was floating 1,000 feet away from them, and it was watching them. On the back of the ferocious figure sat a person with an ice-cold gaze. His gaze was so cold that there was no hint of warmth coming from it. This is clearly the golden spirit root. What the heck is a brilliant golden fruit? I guess these people don't really understand how to use this treasure and believe that the fruit is the essence. They don't realize that compared to the golden spirit root, the fruit is really insignificant. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Although the brilliant golden fruit sounded unfamiliar to him, after seeing it, he was able to find it inside 2CES memories. This treasure was formed from the natural 5 elements, so it has existed for a long time and would naturally be in 2CES memory. The best way to use it was to devour the root. This would make his body even stronger. For a child ancient god, this treasure was a rare nutritional supplement. Wang Lin was pondering when he suddenly looked down at the mosquito beast. At this moment, there was a faint, milky white light coming from the mosquito. Its gaze was locked onto the brilliant golden fruits in the valley and revealed an expression filled with desire for the fruits. Wang Lin had an idea and then patted the mosquito's head. The mosquito turned around, and after seeing Wang Lin nod to it, its eyes quickly revealed an excited light. It quickly turned around and stared at the brilliant golden fruits. This time it revealed a must-have gaze. Could this fruit have some special use for the mosquito? Wang Lin's eyes faintly lit up. 3,000 words in a major chapter. Hoping to be shared, hoping to get the like button hit for the video. Chapter 510 Collapse, Breakdown. The 2 Dalu sword sect elders looked at each other. Then the short elder suddenly reached out with his hand. The man in white next to Xianxia exclaimed, and his body was thrown into the valley by an invisible force. Just as he was thrown into the valley, a sharp sound that could pierce the heavens echoed within the valley. In the blink of an eye, a large amount of red dots came out from the rotting leaves covering the valley and began to gather. From a distance, this sight was terrifying. Senior apprentice brother, Xianxia suddenly turned around. She looked at the people of the Dalu sword sect and shrilled, "What is the meaning of this, senior?" Just as Xianxia finished speaking, those countless red dots began to move. The red dots gathered to form a giant, red cloud. Then it began to emit a loud, buzzing sound and move toward the white-robed young man. Its speed was simply too fast. It moved like a red lightning bolt and surrounded the white-robed young man. At this moment, a scene that shocked everyone but the 2 elders to silence unfolded before them. The countless red dots broke through the white-robed young man's clothes and dug into his body. In just 3 breaths of time, his white robe was blood red. Bursts of terrifying screams and shrills came from his mouth. The intense pain caused him to keep scratching himself, and bone-deep cuts appeared all over his body. His body struggled and rolled violently in the valley. His eyes revealed a deep sense of despair and unimaginable hatred. Senior apprentice brother Xianxia trembled violently and revealed a pitiful smile. At this moment, almost all of the red dots in the valley appeared and entered the young man's body. His eyes slowly dimmed, and his miserable screams slowly weakened. This happened extremely quickly, but it was very shocking. It caused everyone's expressions to become very ugly. Today's matter was caused by me. If Qianqin's senior apprentice brother hadn't died, then it would have been fine, and there wouldn't be a grudge between us. Yin Shaoqing looked toward Xianqin with killing intent. As for the other woman, the one who called Guo Xingyin senior apprentice brother, her face was pale, her small hand covered her mouth, and she looked like she was about to puke. Her body was trembling, as she was clearly terrified by what just happened. Only the blue-robed man who was always praising Guo Xingyin didn't show any sign of discomfort on his face. Instead, when he looked toward the valley, he had an intoxicated expression. The Dalu sword sect as Shifang smiled at the short elder and said, "It looks like the 2 of us don't have to kill anymore. That one person has already lured a majority of the 9 multitude bugs into his body." The short elder smiled and said, "Brother Shi is better with restrictions. I hope you won hold back. Once we obtain the brilliant golden fruits, we still have to report back to the sect." Shifang laughed. Without a word, he slapped his bag and a red jade appeared in his hand. His right hand took the form of a sword as he pointed at the jade and said, "Sword seal restriction open." With that, the jade immediately began to buzz and then flew into the valley as a ray of red light. When the red jade flew into the valley, the buzzing sound became even louder, and strands of red silk came out from the jade. Then, after a pause, there was a thunderous roar, and the red jade began to move in a mysterious fashion. In the blink of an eye, the speed of its movement increased until it seemed to have melted into countless strands. These countless red strands charged toward the young man that was barely struggling. The red silk moved extremely fast and arrived before the young man in the blink of an eye. The red silk didn't enter the young man but instead intertwined together to form a net, which surrounded the young man and the ground several feet around him. At this moment, the Dalu sword sect elder, Shifang's eyes lit up and he shouted, "Seal!" With the word seal, the red net began to emit a red light. There was a series of crackling sounds as countless rays of red light appeared all over the red net, forming a very powerful seal. After finishing all of this, the short, old elder immediately walked into the valley. Just as he entered, sound came from the leaves and red dots appeared from them. However, there weren't many of them this time. The short elder's expression was normal as he raised his right hand and flicked his finger. Every time he flicked, he sent out a ray of sword energy, and a large amount of red dots were destroyed. In truth, if there were a few more 9 multitude bugs, it would have been very difficult for him to handle them, but now that there weren't many left, it looked like it was very easy for him to deal with them. The Dalu sword sect Shifang flew into the valley. With his help, the remaining bugs were immediately destroyed. The third person to enter the valley was Guoxingyi's uncle master, and after him was everyone else. As for Qianqin, the anger on her face had disappeared, and what remained was a terrifying calmness. After the short elder threw out the last ray of sword energy to destroy the last remaining 9 multitude bug, his eyes lit up and they landed on the field of golden flowers. "Lu Songyi, go pick those brilliant golden fruits." The short elder's voice was filled with a "no one can disobey me, Majesty." Lu Songyi was the soul formation old man. After hearing this, he immediately nodded and was about to harvest the brilliant golden fruits. However, just at this moment, a gentle gust of wind entered the valley. At first there was nothing abnormal about this wind. At most it just rustled the leaves on the ground. However, when the wind landed on the 2 elders, their expressions changed greatly. Shifang suddenly turned his head, and his eyes lit up as he looked toward the outside of the valley. The short elder's face was gloomy. He placed his right hand over his bag of holding, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Their movement suddenly changed the entire atmosphere in the valley. There was now a killing intent surrounding the valley. As a result, the old man named Lu that was about to go harvest the fruit suddenly stopped and revealed a shocked expression. As for the other people, they were all the same. Only Qianqin's eyes were calm as she looked at the body of her senior apprentice brother that had already died. It was as if everything happening around her had nothing to do with her anymore. Shifang pondered a bit and then shouted, "Fellow cultivator that just arrived, there is no need to pretend or hide. I am one of the Dalu sword sect's elders, Shifang. I wish for fellow cultivator to come out to speak." The 2 elders looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. At the moment that wind came, that feeling from before increased several fold. At first it felt like there was a fierce beast far away, but then in the blink of an eye, that fierce beast was before his eyes. This drastic change immediately caused the 2 elders' hearts to tremble violently. A thick mass of gray gas came toward the valley. The gray gas was so thick that no one could clearly see the person inside. The gray gas stopped outside the valley. The moment the gray gas appeared, Shifang's expression became extremely ugly. The short elder's face was gloomy and he said, "Word for word, sir, you are." When he finished speaking, he didn't wait for a response. He let out a roar, his right hand touched his bag of holding, and a bronze mirror appeared in his hand. The mirror was thrown into the air and suddenly grew to 3 feet wide. It released a green light that surrounded the gray gas. At the moment the short elder threw out the mirror, Shifang, who had fought with the short elder for a long time, meaning their cooperation was very good, formed a seal with his 2 hands without any hesitation, and the treasured sword on his back flew into the air. The sword floated vertically above his head, and the illusion of a large sword appeared behind him. Shifang shouted, "Chop!" At the moment 2 elders attacked, the soul formation old man, Lu Songyi, moved like lightning and quickly charged toward the brilliant golden fruits. He had cultivated for a long time and knew how to seize the moment of opportunity. Because he was already close to the fruits, he arrived there in the blink of an eye. The light from the bronze mirror was like a restriction that surrounded the gray gas. At the same time, Shifang's sword closed in like it was from the peak of the 9th heaven. Before the sword even closed in, there were already sonic booms from it breaking the sound barrier. The Dalu sword sect was famous for their swords, so the power of their swords couldn't be weak. However, at the moment the sword energy descended, the gray gas suddenly moved. This movement was like 10,000 horses charging, like a tsunami that was sky high. In an instant, the gray gas charged through everything and surrounded the entire valley. Along with this charge, There was a cold voice that came from within the gray gas. How could the light of a firefly compete with the bright moon? This voice was extremely cold, and the moment the voice landed on everyone's ears, it caused them all to shiver. The green light surrounding the gray gas immediately collapsed into countless rays of green light before dissipating. Cracking sounds came from the bronze mirror in the sky before boom. The sword energy Shi Fang had struck out broke. Tonight there will be 2 to 3 new chapters. Leo will do his utmost to make up for the chapters missing from the last 2 days. Chapter 511 Battle. The 2 Dalu sword sect elders both almost coughed out blood at the same time as their bodies exploded backwards, leaving behind deep footprints in the ground. Every footprint they left caused the ground to tremble slightly. As the gray gas spread, one strand of it shot out like a sword. Its target wasn't the 2 elders, but the soul formation old man Lu Songyi, who was trying to secretly harvest the brilliant golden fruits. Lu Songyi's expression changed greatly. He knew that couldn't move in time, so he began to teleport. He knew that teleporting here was very dangerous, but at this moment, he couldn't worry about it too much. His figure began to distort and was about to disappear. However, a cold snort came from within the gray gas as it was charging at him. After the snort, the gray gas suddenly closed and broke through the distorted space. In the blink of an eye, it charged through Lu Songyi's body, just before he could teleport away. Lu Songyi's expression changed greatly, and he was about to speak, but his body suddenly trembled and began to expand like a balloon. This scene was simply too strange. Lu Songyi's body reached its limit before boom. A Dalu sword sect soul formation cultivator was forced to explode just like that. Bang, bang, bang. The sound was still echoing inside the valley while a large amount of flesh and blood rained to the ground. A faint blood mist slowly surrounded the area. In the blood mist, a figure wearing purple slowly walked into the valley. This person had long hair that was casually flowing behind his head. His face wasn't handsome, but he gave off an out-of-this-world feeling. On his finger there were 2 rays of gray gas moving around like 2 small dragons. On his waist, there was a purple token with the word 7 carved onto it. Wang Lin's appearance caused the entire valley to become completely silent. Guo Xingye's face was completely pale without any trace of blood, and his body was faintly trembling. His right hand clenched onto his sword until his fingers went white. His junior apprentice sister revealed a look of terror. Finally, she wasn't able to stand it anymore, and so she knelt down to puke. Her face was extremely pale. As for the blue-robed young man who didn't seem to be from the Dalu sword sect, he looked even more intoxicated than before as he took a deep breath of this air that tasted like blood. Aside from the 3 of them, the woman named Xianxia revealed an unsettling and struggling expression. This junior's cultivation and mentality weren't strong enough to be comparable to the 2 elders. Although the 2 of them had their hearts shaken up and realized that things had gone south, their expressions were calm and only a bit ugly. Wang Lin's expression was calm as his gaze swept past each of them. Then his hand randomly pointed at the air and strands of gray gas came out from the scattered flesh inside the valley and quickly gathered together. A big cloud of gray gas was formed and quickly moved toward Wang Lin's finger. A large amount of gray gas gathered toward Wang Lin's finger to form a ball at his fingertip. The ball was very cloudy and contained a mysterious force, so when one looked at it, they couldn't stop themselves from staring. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he casually squeezed his finger. There was a fluctuation of energy coming from inside the ball, causing it to shrink until it was only the size of a fingernail. Wang Lin grabbed it with his hand, and when he opened his hand, the gray ball of gas was gone. The Dalu sword sect Shi Fang looked at the token on Wang Lin's waist before saying, word for word, Heavenly Fate Sect, Purple Division S 7th Disciple, Wang Lin. Wang Lin withdrew his hand. Then he looked at Shi Fang and said, answer one of my questions and I'll let one of you go today. Shi Fang began to laugh as if he had heard the funniest thing in the world. His right hand formed a seal and pointed at the sky. Then a powerful sword energy came from the sheath on his back. The sword energy was green, and it ascended into the sky. Shi Fang sneered, Wang Lin, although you are a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator, with the 2 of us at the early stage along with our sword treasures from the sect, even if you were to kill us, you would be seriously injured. Let's see how you will go to the Eastern Demonic Spirit Sea when it opens in 1.5 months. He had already heard rumors of the list of people chosen to enter the Eastern Demonic Spirit Sea. He heard that the newly accepted Purple Division's 7th disciple was one of the people chosen. Now that he had seen Wang Lin, he decided to gamble. He gambled that Wang Lin wouldn't dare to casually act against them because they both could retaliate in full force and end up injuring him. This would mess up Wang Lin's trip to the Eastern Demonic Spirit Sea. The short elder hadn't spoken a word since Wang Lin appeared, but his eyes had been locked onto him. Now that he heard Wang Lin's words, he secretly realized that something was wrong. According to his observations, this person was not one to do things without carefully considering them beforehand. Rather than wasting time talking to this person, he would rather they team up and take this chance to attack now. Their chance of winning against a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator with 2 early-stage soul transformation cultivators was already not high. The short elder clenched his teeth, and without a word he began to move. He slapped his bag of holding, and a blood-colored flag appeared in his hand. With one wave, a blood mist came out from the flag and immediately covered his entire body. "Accept your death!" The short elder let out a shout as his hand formed seals and he viciously sent out his palms. Several bloody palm prints that carried the smell of blood suddenly appeared within the blood mist and shot toward Wang Lin. At the same time, the short elder bit his tongue and spat out a large amount of essence blood. The color of this blood had a hint of gold, and after he coughed out the blood, he began to chant. He chanted like a ghost, making it hard to hear, but a mysterious force suddenly appeared as if it had descended from the heavens. Heavenly Ghost Devourer. After finishing the chant, the short elder's eyes lit up. With a loud shout, the slightly golden essence blood began to move in a mysterious way, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared. At the moment it disappeared, a 100-foot-tall illusionary head suddenly appeared behind the short elder. This head was very big, and it was greenish-black. There was no hair on the head, and it looked like a vicious ghost. Although the head was illusionary, it looked corporeal and gave off a cold aura. The moment the head appeared, it let out a roar and flew out from behind the short elder and charged toward Wang Lin. The short elder shouted, "Attack!" Shifang clenched his teeth. Without a word, his hand formed a seal and slashed down. The sword behind his back let out an earth-shattering sword hymn and suddenly charged toward Wang Lin like a vicious dragon. At the same time, Shifang still found that their chances were not good, so he spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Next, he sat down in the lotus position and caught his essence blood at the center of his palm. Then he let out a roar and slapped it on his forehead. With a thunderous thud, Shifang's body trembled, and a ball of green light came out from his forehead. In the green light, Shifang's origin soul suddenly flew out. Then he opened his mouth and blinding green light shined from his mouth. The green light turned into a sword as long as a finger with a willow leaf carved onto it. His origin soul entered this sword and quickly chased after the sword energy he had just sent out. "Accept your death." The 2 early-stage Dalu sword sect elders were already fighting with all they had. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he stood there, and his gaze remained the same. He took one step, raised his hand, pressed at the air, and black light appeared on his fingers. Finger of death. With one finger, tens of thousands of souls die. With one finger, all of the grass in the valley turned brown, and even the already withered leaves began to collapse. They weren't just collapsing on the outside. Even the roots collapsed. The several bloody palms that were charging toward Wang Lin now collided with his finger, and without any pause, they all immediately collapsed. However, if they had just collapsed, then it wouldn't show the true power of the finger of death. The blood print that was breaking apart was slowly retreating, but before it was able to retreat far, it was immediately pulled back toward Wang Lin's finger due to the power of the finger of death. This scene happened extremely fast. From the outside, it looked like when Wang Lin's thumb had pressed down on the bloody palms, they were absorbed by his thumb, and it now had a blood-red color. After absorbing the power of the blood palm, Wang Lin's eyes became even colder. Not only did the thumb not stop, it moved even faster. Wang Lin bypassed the sword energy from Shifang and then immediately pressed his thumb down between the brows of the ghostly head. The ghostly head's eyes released a ghostly light, and at the moment Wang Lin's thumb arrived, it opened its mouth and swallowed Wang Lin's thumb. "Eh?" Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he let out a smile. "Since you want to devour, then I'll let you devour your fill." With that, Wang Lin's thumb began to glow red as he pushed all the power he had absorbed from the bloody palms into the head. At the same time, a sliver of the destructive force from the finger of death that could destroy everything entered the head as well. The ghostly head immediately began to expand. A cry came from the head as he immediately began to retreat, but he only retreated 30 feet before he exploded with a bang. The short elder's life spell was broken, causing his face to immediately turn pale and cough out a large mouthful of blood. His eyes are filled with terror as he turned around and ran without any hesitation. He was truly scared. He once used this heavenly ghost devour spell against a mid-stage soul transformation cultivator. Although that mid-stage soul transformation cultivator was able to break it in the end, he was in danger the entire time. But Wang Lin was able to break it so casually, how could he not run? Good night, everyone. We will meet again tomorrow. Just wait a moment, remember to like the video. Chapter 512 Kill. Wang Lin coldly looked at where the short elder was escaping to and slapped his bag of holding, bringing the celestial sword out. From within the celestial sword came Shu Liguo's arrogant voice. Grandson, don't run. Your grandpa Shu will let my junior brother play with you. As soon as the voice came from the flying sword, the half-moon blade immediately charged out toward the short elder. All of this happened extremely fast. In almost an instant, Wang Lin broke the bloody palms, destroyed the ghostly head, and caused the short elder to run for his life. At this moment, Xianxia's sword energy was quickly closing in on Wang Lin. Wang Lin turned around and saw Xianxia's origin soul, which was on the small sword behind the sword energy. His expression remained the same, his body didn't move, and he only raised his left arm. Metal celestial energy suddenly came from his left arm and filled the valley. At the same time, his left arm was like the sun releasing a blinding golden light, and a vortex slowly condensed at the center of his palm. 4-cycle metal celestial spiritual energy, said Wang Lin softly as he gently pushed his palm forward. With a series of rumbling sounds, the golden vortex in his hand suddenly charged out and directly collided with the sword energy. At this moment, a large number of cracks appeared in the valley, and even many of the surrounding mountains began to collapse. After the sword energy was the small sword with the willow leaf engraved on it. It charged through the air past the collision and went directly toward the area between Wang Lin's brows. Its speed was extremely fast, so although Wang Lin was at the mid-stage of soul transformation, even he didn't want to mess with an early-stage soul transformation cultivator who was going all out by merging their origin soul with their life-saving spell. However, this was only true before he had the soul lasher. Now, his expression didn't even change. He quickly backed up as he touched his bag of holding, and a black shadow suddenly appeared, breaking the sound barrier right when it came out. With a crisp sound, the small sword trembled as if it had been hit by a powerful force, and its speed immediately decreased. There was another crisp sound as the whip hit the sword. An angry roar came from the small sword, and a green flame suddenly condensed around it. It broke through space and immediately appeared 3 inches away from Wang Lin's forehead. Oh, desperate now. Wang Lin quickly backed up as the whip moved at lightning speed toward the sword. With a series of crisp sounds, the whip landed on the small sword, causing a series of miserable screams to come from it. In the end, a large amount of black gas poured out of it. It immediately stopped charging at Wang Lin and turned around to escape, except now the light on the sword was extremely faint. A large amount of black gas came out from the small sword and turned into the shape of Xianxia. The current him was extremely weak. It was as if a gentle breeze could make him collapse. Xianxia wanted to return to his body, but Wang Lin wouldn't give him that chance. Just as his origin soul was about to condense, Wang Lin's right hand pointed forward and a ray of green light shot out. The target wasn't Xianxia's origin soul but his body. Xianxia watched as the green light turned into a giant monster. The most eye-catching part of this monster was its sharp mouth. At this moment, the sharp mouth was moving at lightning speed as it descended from above. Then it pierced through Xianxia's head and stabbed deep into his body. Xianxia's essence, blood and flesh, along with some remaining celestial spiritual energy and anything that was devourable, were sucked dry in an instant. In the end, all that remained was a corpse. Xianxia's origin soul that had just formed from the small sword stared dumbfoundedly at what just happened. He turned around to give Wang Lin a vicious look before flying toward the juniors in the distance. There were 4 juniors, 2 male and 2 female. Shifang didn't hesitate at all as he charged toward Guo Xingyi. Guo Xingyi was confused. He didn't knew why the elder was charging toward him. His vision suddenly went dark and there was suddenly a wound on his forehead. It was the small sword it had pierced through it. Guo Xingyi's body trembled and his eyes dimmed. However, his eyes suddenly lit up once more, but there was a strong sense of weakness coming from those eyes. Wang Lin's eyes became serious as he looked at the scene with interest. It has to be said that possession was not simple. Even Situ Nan took more than 10 days to complete the possession. However, this elder was able to immediately regain his sanity and looked like he had already completed a majority of the possession process. This point surprised Wang Lin. At this moment, Guo Xingyi's face was pale. He stared at Wang Lin and quickly said, "Fellow cultivator Wang, everything was my fault this time. If you let me leave, I'll give you the method of this quick possession technique. I also swear by my true soul that I'll never speak of the matter here today." With that, Shifang waved his hand, and aside from Qianqin, the other two immediately exploded and died. "Fellow cultivator Wang, this girl Qianqin is still a virgin. I have a spell that can use virgins to heal your wounds. If you let me go, I'll gift that to you as well." Shifang's heart pounded extremely fast as he looked at Wang Lin. If he hadn't been forced into a corner, he wouldn't be begging like this. Qianqin's body trembled after hearing Shifang's words. She looked at Wang Lin with a complex expression before clenching her teeth, kneeling down to the ground, and softly saying, "I beg Senior to please kill this person and the other Dalu Sword Sect elder. Qianqin doesn't have anything to give, but I am willing to spend my life serving Senior like a cattle or a horse." Shifang's face was gloomy, and a hint of killing intent flashed across his eyes. Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he slowly said, "Do you know if there was anything abnormal when Sword Sentling Xianhu returned from the celestial realm 200 years ago?" 200 years ago, Shifang was startled. He pondered a bit before his eyes lit up. He looked at Wang Lin and asked, "Could it be that you retalking that sword spirit?" Wang Lin's eyes became serious, and he said, "Tell me about it." Shifang pondered. After a long time, he bitterly said, "I only heard about it, so I don't know the details. I heard that the Sword Saint was a mess when he returned, and after that a series of murders occurred inside the sect. Finally, an unknown sword spirit appeared and had a huge battle with the Sword Saint. After that, the sword spirit disappeared. No one knows where it went." Wang Lin looked at Shifang. This person was not telling the truth. Wang Lin's expression didn't change as he calmly said, "Place your fast possession method in a jade and give it to me." Shifang raised his head. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "Do you agree to let me go?" Wang Lin coldly looked at this person and said, "That will depend on whether what you imprinted on the jade is real or fake." Shifang clenched his teeth as he took out a jade and imprinted the possession technique and the healing spell on it. Then he threw the jade directly at Wang Lin. Wang Lin raised his hand to catch it and began to read it with his divine sense. He directly skipped past the spell that used a virgin to heal and focused on the possession technique. Shifang's eyes lit up, and without any hesitation he began to move. He charged into the distance and was about to leave the valley. Wang Lin didn't even look at him as he pointed at him with his left finger. The gray gas that had been circling his finger suddenly shot out towards Shifang, breaking the sound barrier in the process. Shifang immediately noticed. He jerked his head around and shouted, "Wang Lin, are you still a cultivator?" His body flickered. He was about to teleport, but he had just finished possessing this body, so everything was in a weakened state. Just as his body began to use celestial spiritual energy, the two strands of gray gas suddenly sped up and closed in on him at an unimaginable speed. Shifang's pupils shrank, then his body trembled a bit and stopped moving. The two strands of gray had already entered his body and cycled through him like crazy along his veins. After 3 breaths of time with a loud bang, Shifang's body suddenly collapsed. A large amount of flesh and blood rained from the sky again, and gray gas once again gathered from the flesh and returned to Wang Lin. Wang Lin raised his head and his divine sense withdrew from the jade. This fast possession technique does have some value. Wang Lin put the jade away and looked into the distance. That was where the half-moon blade and celestial sword were. The short elder was trapped by them and was waiting for Wang Lin's questioning. Wang Lin didn't immediately move there but slowly walked to west side of the valley. This was where all the flowers were. He squatted down, picked up a fruit, and smelled it. Wang Lin's action caused the mosquito beast that just ate Shifang's body begin to rapid beat its wings. Its eyes revealed a willingness to please. Even the woman named Xianxia's eyes became serious as she looked at the brilliant golden fruit in Wang Lin's hand, and she couldn't help but sigh. Her sect had spent a lot of effort to find the brilliant golden fruit, but they unexpectedly met the people of the Dalu sword sect. She originally thought that everything was set in stone, but then there was a sudden change that resulted in the scene before her. The sudden appearance of the Heavenly Fates sect's Purple Division's 7th disciple, Wang Lin, easily changed everything. Wang Lin softly whispered, "Don't worry." After the mosquito heard this, it quickly nodded. Its eyes contained a hint of fanaticism. As Wang Lin held the brilliant golden fruit, he wanted to test if this fruit could fill up the metal element of the heaven-defying bead. If not, then he would just feed it to the mosquito beast. The heaven-defying bead was only missing the metal element after the battle at the Suzaku tomb. It was still missing half of the required element. 4,000 words in a major chapter. Read an extra 1,000 words, wishing for the like button on the video to help. Chapter 513, Golden Spirit Root. Wang Lin pressed the brilliant golden fruit against his forehead, and it went inside it. After a while, he revealed a look of disappointment and loosened his hand. I was too impatient. How could completing the heaven-defying bead be such a simple matter? 700 years of cultivation, and even with my luck, I was only able to complete 4 of the elements. Every completion was filled with danger, so I believe that the completion of this last metal element won't be simple either. I just don't know if that golden spirit root will have any effect. Wang Lin secretly sighed. Then he reached out, and about 1/3 of all the brilliant golden fruits flew into the air. The mosquito let out a cry of joy as it sucked hard with its mouth and devoured all the brilliant golden fruits. At this moment, a golden light suddenly appeared around the mosquito and flashed brightly 9 times before returning to normal. Seeing that the mosquito seemed to have enough, Wang Lin no longer picked more fruits. His right hand formed a seal and sent out a ray of spiritual energy. This energy landed on the flowers, causing them to release a golden glow. This glow was very blinding. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He didn't tee back up, but instead slapped his bag of holding and took out a large amount of jades. He imprinted his divine sense onto each of the jades and placed one next to each flower. Not far away, the woman named Xianxia stared at Wang Lin with a confused expression. She didn't know why he wasn't picking the fruit, but instead looked like he was setting up a formation. Could it be that to harvest the brilliant golden fruit, a formation that is required? The confusion in Xianxia's eyes increased. After placing down the last jade, the pondering expression in Wang Lin's eyes disappeared and was replaced with a sense of clarity. According to the memories of the ancient god, only after this fruit has naturally grown, naturally ripened, and naturally withered will the golden spirit root form. However, I don't have the time to wait right now. The time it takes for the fruits to completely wither is random. It can take days or years. I don't have time to wait, so I have to use this spell from Tusi's memory. An ancient god uses the bones of a demonic beast, but I am using jades, so the effect may not be as good. Wang Lin felt helpless about this. With how powerful the ancient gods were, all the materials they used were the best. He faintly shook his hand and then raised it to form a very strange gesture. This gesture was not the seal of a cultivator, but something from the memory of ancient god Tusi that had the effect of a catalyst. This was the gesture to activate the formation. Wang Lin muttered, "Die!" After he said that word, a ray of yellow light shot out from his left hand and landed on a jade. The moment the yellow light landed on the jade let out a high-pitched shrill. Shortly after, the jade exploded. This scene caused Wang Lin to frown. Even Xianxia, who was in the distance, was scared. However, although the jade had exploded, the yellow light didn't disappear, but became even stronger. When the jade exploded, the yellow light charged out and landed on another piece of jade. After that, there was a series of explosions. At almost the instant the yellow light touched the jade, it would cause it to explode to dust. Wang Lin frowned even harder. After several breaths of time, the yellow light became stronger and stronger. It was now golden, and was no different from the color of the flowers. The golden light surrounded all the flowers, causing them to slowly shrink, as if they were about to fall off their stems. Not only the flowers, but even the brilliant golden fruits began to shrink and slowly wither. Even the stem was the same. It was as if they were all being baked by intense heat. This scene caused the mosquito beast to let out a series of sad cries and reveal a deep sense of sadness. If it wasn't for the fact that it trusted Wang Lin a lot, it would have already come down to steal the fruits. As for Xianxia, her heart hurt as she stared at the withering, brilliant golden fruits. Her heart bled and ached for the withering fruits. Wang Lin's expression was normal, but his eyes were very serious as he silently stared at the withering, brilliant golden fruits. The entire atmosphere of the valley became heavy. It didn't take long for all the golden flower petals to fall. However, the petals didn't fall like normal flowers. Instead, they melted into a golden liquid that fused with the ground. After the petals came the brilliant golden fruits. They also melted into drops of golden liquid that fused with the ground. After that, it was the stems. This whole process lasted half an instant stick of time. After that period of time, there was nothing left on the ground. The mosquito let out a sad cry. Its head loosened and it began to pout in the air. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he walked toward where the brilliant golden fruits once were. He looked at the ground and suddenly his eyes shined brightly. He squatted down and his right hand slowly dug into the ground. He let out a smile as he pulled his hand back and something that shined as brightly as the sun came up with his hand. He had pulled out a mysterious object that looked like a ginseng with 4 whiskers and was glowing like the sun. When one looked at it, they would get a very warm feeling. Wang Lin secretly thought, 4-whisker golden spirit root. If I had let it form naturally, it could have at least reached 5 whiskers. The mosquito in the sky was completely stunned as it stared at the root in Wang Lin's hand. This kind of gaze had never appeared in its eyes before born. This gaze was filled with a hint of madness. Xianxia also had her small mouth opened as she stared at the root in Wang Lin's hand, and her mind went blank. At this moment, she finally understood that what she thought earlier was her own ignorance. The true use of this brilliant golden fruit was to harvest its roots. Wang Lin plucked 1 whisker and pressed it against his forehead. Shortly after, his expression changed. This object was more effective than the brilliant golden fruit and could make the metal element of the heaven-defying bead increase a bit. However, the amount was simply too small. He calculated that even if he absorbed this entire root, it would only increase the metal element by 10%. He let out a sigh as he plucked a whisker and threw it at the mosquito beast, whose eyes still contained that hint of madness and want, but had restrained itself from charging down. The mosquito let out a happy cry as it quickly flew to catch the whisker. With 1 suck, it completely swallowed the whisker. Only 2 of the 4 whiskers were left. After the mosquito devoured the whisker, the madness in its eyes slowly disappeared. This time, it began to glow, and unlike before, it didn't end, and continued to glow. Finally, the mosquito slowly curled up its wings and its entire body curled together. The golden light released from its body became even stronger until it formed a golden cocoon that completely surrounded the mosquito. The golden cocoon slowly darkened as it completely surrounded the mosquito, making it so no one could see inside. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he forced his divine sense into the cocoon. After observing it a bit, he revealed a happy smile. After the mosquito has devoured so many treasures, it is finally going to evolve. Its strength should increase a lot this time. Wang Lin's right hand reached out and the golden cocoon was put away into the bag of holding. After he put it away, he pondered a bit and waved his hand, causing a ray of green light to appear. When the green light appeared, it turned into a giant thunder toad and landed with a thud. Its eyes were filled with laziness. However, this laziness completely disappeared when it saw the 2 whiskers in Wang Lin's eyes. The lazy gaze turned into a serious stare. Wang Lin faintly smiled. Then he plucked 1 whisker and threw it at the thunder toad. The thunder toad's stomach expanded, and a red tongue shot out from its mouth. The whisker that was in the air disappeared without a trace. A thunderous roar came from the thunder toad, then it slowly began to close its eyes as if it was very tired. Wang Lin pressed at the air and returned the thunder toad back to his bag of holding. Then he looked at the woman, Xianxia, who was still watching. When Xianxia noticed Wang Lin's gaze, her body trembled. She quickly bowed but didn't say a word. I was able to obtain this golden spirit root thanks to your luck. You can take this last whisker. With that, Wang Lin plucked the last whisker and put away the main root for his original body. He took 1 step, then his body turned into green gas and disappeared without a trace. Xianxia was startled and subconsciously caught the whisker floating toward her. Everything before her was like a dream. She wouldn't dare to believe it was all true. When she turned her head, the man named Wang Lin was already gone without a trace. Xianxia stood there for a very long time before putting away the whisker. She walked up to her fellow sect member, then she let out a sigh and quickly left this place. Wang Lin's body moved like lightning. It didn't take long before he crossed a mountain range and entered the depths of this land. Here was where the short elder of the Dalu sword sect was sitting in the lotus position on a giant tree with an extremely pale face. 1 inch away from between his brows was the half-moon blade, which seemed to just be floating there. 1 inch above his head was the celestial sword. It was also just floating there. Although the sword was motionless, it gave off a powerful sword energy. Brothers, have you not yet hit the like button for the video? Wish that the like button for the video would be hit. Chapter destination: Eastern Sea. After seeing Wang Lin arrive, the old man let out a sigh of relief. Fellow cultivator Wang Lin, if there is any problem, we can talk about it. This old man will tell you anything you want to know without a single lie. The short elder was helpless because his cultivation was weaker and his treasures were worse. Wang Lin didn't even have to chase him. All he had to do was throw 2 treasures at him, and it was enough to drive him crazy. The flying sword wasn't too bad. Although it was very sturdy, the sword energy wasn't too powerful. However, just this sturdiness was a big problem for him too. No matter what he tried, it had no effect on the flying sword. If it wasn't for the fact that he was running for his life, he would have done whatever it took to take it so he could study it. What really caused the short elder to completely give up was this strange half-moon blade. This half-moon blade was like a primordial war god that harvested lives. Its speed was too fast, and the entire time it was extremely close to his head. It was as if it had a powerful hold on his neck, so no matter what he did, it would be difficult for him to escape death. As a result, how could the short elder dare to run anymore? Just like this, with a blade and sword pointed at him, he waited for Wang Lin's arrival. The bitterness in his heart was very strong. He regretted coming here with Shifang and offending this fiend. He couldn't be bothered about whether Shifang was still alive or not. All he was worried about was how to save his own life. Strands of gray gas moved around Wang Lin's finger as he stared at the old man. He calmly said, "Many years ago, when the Sword Saint returned from the celestial realm, was there anything abnormal? Hesitate and die, lie and die. Say something different from what Shifang said or die." The short elder was startled, but he quickly blurted out, "When the revered Sword Saint returned, there was a terrifying sword spirit that had chased after him. It battled with the Sword Saint for many days before collapsing. The Sword Saint sealed away 1/3 of the sword spirit deep within East Demon Spirit Sea." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he quickly asked, "What is so mysterious about the East Demon Spirit Sea?" The short elder didn't dare to delay and said, "The East Demon Spirit Sea is one of the 3 great forbidden areas of planet Tanyu. There are many ancient demons inside there. Every 10,000 years the control of the gate to the area changes ownership. This time it belongs to my Dalu sword sect. The gate is open every 5,000 years, and every time it opens, every sect sends disciples to enter to capture ancient demons. Capturing ancient demons is only secondary. The main reason for the East Demon Spirit Sea is a trial, a bloody trial. Once one enters, the danger is extremely high. It can even be said that the fewer people that come out, the better, because the real benefit is when you leave, you will receive the demon spirit inheritance." At this moment, the short elder's eyes were filled with greed. Demon spirit inheritance? Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. That is correct. This demon spirit inheritance can push cultivators' cultivation 1 whole level. If one receives it during the Tao seeking stage, then it will decrease the risk and increase the chance of reaching the ascendant stage by a lot. Of course, if one is already at the ascendant stage, it will still help increase their cultivation level. If one is at the late stage of ascendant, it might even help them take the step into the incorporeal yin and corporeal yang stages and obtain a body that can last for tens of thousands of years. This is why it is such a big deal for planet Tanyan. There are many greedy people, but the East Demon Spirit Sea is very dangerous. If you want the benefits, then you must be willing to pay. Anyone that is allowed to enter is one of the most outstanding people of their generation. There is even a rumor that it is possible for only 1 person to come out. If someone can do that, they will obtain a never-before-seen reward, a low-quality celestial spell. Wang Lin pondered a bit and then his eyes lit up. With one thought, Shu Liguo seemed to notice, and the half-moon blade immediately lit up. In an instant, the half-moon blade penetrated the head of the short elder. The short elder's body trembled, blood gushed out of his mouth, and his eyes dimmed. He pointed at Wang Lin as his eyes gradually closed, then he fell on the ground and remained motionless. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and the half-moon blade and celestial sword returned to his bag of holding. Then his body flickered and disappeared. 3 incense sticks of time after Wang Lin left, the short elder suddenly opened his eyes, and the hole between them slowly closed. He took a deep breath and looked dispirited. He turned around and looked viciously at the void and muttered to himself, "You want to kill me? Well, it's not that easy. This old man cultivates the 3-soul method, which allows me to survive death 3 times. I didn't think I would use my last one here. Wang Lin, once I return to the Delu sword sect, I'll definitely find a way to force you to your death to get my revenge for today." His eyes gave off cold light as he flew off into the distance. However, just at the moment he moved, 2 strands of gray gas silently shot out from the jungle in the valley. Their speed was too fast, and they broke the sound barrier as they closed in. The short elder's expression changed greatly, and without any hesitation he shouted, "Scatter!" With one word, a large amount of ripples appeared around his body to block the 2 strands of gray gas. At the same time, the short elder's body took a step back. Half of his body entered the void and he was just about to teleport away, but he was too late. The 2 strands of gray gas completely ignored the ripples and went directly through them. Like 2 wild chains, the strands of gray gas directly charged into the short elder's body. The old man's face turned pale and let out a pitiful smile. He could feel the 2 strands of gray gas cycle like crazy inside his body, and with every cycle he would lose some of his life force. Wang Lin continued to move in the depths of the earth northern demonic land. The gray gas around him would sometimes be thick and sometimes be thin. The most eye-catching was the several strands of gray gas that were constantly moving between his fingers. As he flew, his expression suddenly changed. He looked behind him and let out a sneer. Shortly after, a thick strand of gray gas came from behind Wang Lin and formed a ball of gray gas before him. After taking one look at the ball, Wang Lin reached out to grab it. When he opened his hand, the ball of gas had disappeared. Wang Lin moved like lightning, and as he flew, he turned into a giant cloud of gray gas as he charged into the depths of the earth northern demonic land. Time waits for no one. The East Demon Spirit Sea will be the perfect place for me to practice the celestial slaughter art. This is one of the reasons for going. Zhou Yi has helped me before, and now he is trapped in the East Demon Spirit Sea. There are a few people who I owe, and I'll repay them all. I must go to try and help him. This is the second reason for going. Master Alzir cares about the heavenly fate, and would not do anything without reason. If he wants me to go, he must have his reasons. If I don't go, I'll be going against fate, and that would make it hard to get a foothold on planet Tianyun. This is the third reason for going. I just don't know if I'll have the luck to find something that can help increase the metal element in the heaven-defying bead. If the heaven-defying bead is complete, it will probably have great benefits for Wan Yi, and might even awaken her. Wang Lin touched his forehead and revealed a gentle look of reminiscence. While thinking about Li Muan, Wang Lin felt a hint of warmth in his cold heart. Li Muan was the only one who walked into his heart and came with him to planet Tianyun. Wang Lin pondered a bit before letting out a sigh, then his body turned into gray gas and disappeared. The deeper one goes into the earth northern demonic land, the stronger the demonic beasts becomes. In the inner 150,000 kilometers, there are even desolate beasts as strong as ascendant cultivators. In the last 10 days, the earth northern demonic land was covered in endless gray gas. Strands of gray gas rose from the ground and took life away with it. However, this gray gas never went within 150,000 kilometers of the center, so the desolate beasts didn't bother with it. This gray gas also only lasted for a mere 10 days before disappearing, so it didn't cause any lasting effect. 10 days later, there were only 6 days left before the opening of the East Demon Spirit Sea, so Wang Lin left this area. In contrast to 10 days ago, there was now a very well hidden killing intent and a hint of gray gas moving inside his eyes. The most eye-catching were the 5 strands of gray gas moving between his fingers that were emitting the sound of howling wind. This sound seemed to contain a mysterious power, and anyone that heard it would have their attention drawn by it. the celestial slaughter art can be considered to be at the small completion stage. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he walked out of the Earth Northern demonic land and looked up at the sky. Transforming life force into seals is difficult. In this trip, I was only able to make 3 seals. A gray symbol appeared on Wang Lin's forehead. This symbol wasn't T-complex, it was filled with life force. After the symbol appeared, it immediately began to spread, and it covered his body in an instant. Shortly after, another identical symbol appeared and covered his body. With a total of 3 flashes, 3 symbols covered his body. Wang Lin lowered his head to look at his body. Then he formed a sword with his finger and waved his finger. There was a grinding sound from the point of contact, but the finger didn't pierce through. Wang Lin looked into the distance and revealed a look of determination. Thank you all for the support, especially for the large golden gifts from Leo. Leo is so touched he could cry. By the end of this month, Leo's video is facing a challenge in the popular rankings, hoping to get more likes for the video. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 515, Why the East Sea. There is a mysterious place in the void in planet Tianyun's vicinity. From a distance, this just looks like a place where a lot of floating objects have gathered, an endless sea of floating objects. There are only 2 colors here, green and red. All of the floating things here are these 2 colors. Every 5,000 years, this sea of floating stuff emits a mysterious power, and a lot of mysterious things are absorbed into this sea by this power. Among these mysterious things are corpses and treasures. Anything and everything can be absorbed. This place is like a giant treasure trove that only absorbs and never emits. If you want the treasures, you must go inside. No one knows how this place was formed. Rumor has it that when planet Tianyun came to be, this place had already existed for a long time. Some people say that this place was a palace of a powerful celestial general. Later, when the celestial realm collapsed, it was somehow impacted and turned into ruins. However, this ruin that everyone sees is only a state created by a powerful spell. If one is fortunate enough to go inside, they can definitely recover the celestial palace. There are even rumors that this place is a tunnel that links to another space. Maybe people can find a passage to the realm beyond the celestial realm here. Overall, there are countless rumors about this place, and every one of these rumors are filled with confidence as if they have some definitive facts. This sea of unknown origin is on the eastern side of planet Tianyun, so after a long time, it was referred to as the East Sea. Back when the Alzer first completed his Tao, he invited several friends, including Sword Saint Ling Qianho, before their relationship broke down, and explored this place 3 times. The first 2 times they came back empty-handed, but on the 3rd time, only half of the people that went returned. It was also after that time that Sword Saint Ling Qianho's and the Alzer's friendship broke apart. Even until now, they have never talked about what happened on that 3rd expedition. However, after that time, the Alzer said one thing: there is an ancient demon inside there. From today onward, this place belongs to my planet Tiantun, and this place will be called the Gate to the East Demon Spirit Sea. The words ancient demon spread during that time and were remembered by countless people. Even someone from the Cultivation Alliance came to check the East Demon Spirit Sea. However, in regards to letting outsiders enter the East Demon Spirit Sea, the Alzer, Ling Tianho, and all the other old monsters around had a rare uniform opinion about it. They would never allow anyone from the outside to enter. This place was the forbidden area of planet Tianyun. After the situation stayed like this for a very long time, this East Demon Spirit Sea just naturally became a forbidden area that belonged to planet Tianyun. There aren't many mysterious places like the East Demon Spirit Sea, but they aren't very rare either. The Cultivation Alliance doesn't want to have a bad relationship with the cultivators of planet Tianyun over such a place, because for them, it is not worth it. The opening of the East Demon Spirit Sea every 5,000 years is a big event for planet Tianyun. At the moment it opens, there will be a tide phase that lasts for several months. The tide phase is when the mysterious power from within the East Demon Spirit Sea spreads out across a very large area. As long as the cultivators are there, they can see that countless treasures, countless spells, countless corpses of demonic beasts, and countless strange things are pulled and absorbed into the East Demon Spirit Sea. Every time it opens, all the old monsters around Tianyun send in their disciples. Although it is very dangerous, it only opens once every 5,000 years. It is too good of an opportunity to miss, so might as well risk it. Every time the gate to the East Demon Spirit Sea opens, a large amount of people enter. On the lower end, there are a few hundred, but on the upper end, there are more than 1,000. The weakest are at the soul transformation stage, while the strongest are people who have touched the yin and yang stage. That is the highest cultivation level allowed, because planet Tianyun has a very strict requirement on people who can enter. Anyone above the ascendant stage is definitely not allowed to enter. After all, this place is used for training everyone's disciples. Even when it is open, it is only half open so they all die inside. However, nothing is absolute, and everything depends on what gets sucked in during the tide phase. If there was something so heaven-defying that it would even tempt these old monsters, then the East Demon Spirit Sea would become very lively. At this moment, there are still 5 days until the East Demon Spirit Sea opens. But there were already countless cultivators outside the East Demon Spirit Sea. These cultivators were all people who were going to enter this time around. They were wearing various different clothing, and although they mingled, the distinction between each sect was very clear. The disciples of each sect were all grouped together, and it was very lively. As time passed, more and more cultivators appeared outside the East Demon Spirit Sea. Even some old monsters that never showed their faces had come with their disciples. Every time one of them appeared, it would cause an uproar among the cultivators. All of the cultivators would make way, as they didn't dare to block these people's path. On this day, a ray of red light almost covered the entire area outside the East Demon Spirit Sea. At the same time, a thick smell of blood spread across the area. This caused the surroundings to look like a world of blood. Blood planet's ancestor. Some cultivators immediately recognized the person from the smell of blood. At this moment, everyone stopped their chattering. From within the blood-red light, a giant blood-red jade slowly floated toward the East Demon Spirit Sea. On the top of the giant jade sat a woman. She had red phoenix eyes, her beautiful brows contained killing intent, and she was wearing a white robe that when compared to the blood-red jade below her, it created a powerful visual contrast. Although she was sitting in the lotus position, one could still see her slim figure. She had a head of silky black hair, a tender and white sunflower seed face, skin as smooth as crystal, an exquisite nose, and her red phoenix eyes glowed like the blazing sun shining on the lake on the surface but contained well-hidden depth and coldness within. If one were to accidentally get caught inside her eyes, they would be out of luck. She sat on the blood jade and flew over. Everyone who saw her moved out of the way, allowing her to reach the outside of the East Demon Spirit Sea. She stopped in an empty area. Along the way, the woman didn't say a word. When the blood jade finally stopped, she closed her eyes and began cultivating. Blood Ancestor's daughter, Yao Shui. Some cultivators immediately recognized her. Blood Ancestor Yao Xinghai was a famous old monster around planet Tianyun. This person's cultivation level was really high. He has challenged the All-Seer total of 7 times, and although he lost all 7 times, his cultivation level was higher each time. Especially the 7th time, when he showed off his terrifying blood spells. This person owned his own cultivation planet around planet Tianyun. He captured natives to provide him with blood to cultivate his demonic techniques. This Yao Xinghai has never accepted any disciple except for one girl. This girl was his beloved daughter. He taught her all of his techniques and even helped change her life by defying the heavens to allow her bloodline power to awaken. This father and daughter duo spends most of their time on the blood planet and never interacts with anyone. But the more they stay isolated, the less people are willing to mess with them. Let's not talk about the matter here for now. On Earth planet, one of the 5 planets orbiting planet Tianyun, outside the large transfer array in the Xuanyuan sect, the junior master of the Xuanyuan sect, Shu Yunshan, was silently standing there. Although he looked calm, he was constantly hitting his palm with the fan in his hand and looking at the distance. Behind him followed 3 people. These 3 people were all white-haired old men. Although they wore simple clothes, they gave off a terrifying aura, making it feel like the air around them was becoming thin. On the outer rim of the transfer array sat several hundred Xuanyuan sect disciples. They were sitting at various corners of the transfer array and were silently cultivating. They were waiting for the command to use the spiritual energy inside their bodies to stimulate the celestial energy inside the transfer array to activate it. As Sun Yunshan softly tapped the jade fan in his hand, his face was without any hint of impatience and was still calm. Not long after, a ray of pink light came from the horizon. Sun Yunshan frowned and revealed a look of helplessness. He then put away the fan and looked at the pink light. The pink light was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived. The light made a circle around the area before landing 10 feet away from Sun Yunshan, revealing a girl in her 20 seconds. This girl was wearing a pink dress, and her skin was as smooth and clear as crystal. She was like a person made of jade. She gave off a fragrance that would cause people to be completely intoxicated by her. The girl puffed her cheeks and quickly said, "Elder brother, you promised me that as long as I could make it, you would let me go." Sun Yunshan looked at her and shouted, "What nonsense! The East Demon Spirit Sea is not a place you can go with your cultivation level. Although Father is in closed-door cultivation, he has already ordered that you are not allowed to go. Xuan Yi, bring her back to the sect." One of the old men behind Sun Yunshan took a step forward and stood next to the girl. He clasped his hands and said, "My lady, please don't make it hard for Xuan Yi." The girl snorted. She didn't even look at Xuan Yi. She looked at Sun Yunshan and said, "Mother agreed." Sun Yunshan was about to speak, but his expression suddenly changed. He no longer bothered with the girl as he looked at the horizon and revealed a smile. "Brother Wang, I have been waiting for you. As time goes on, a heavy dizziness is setting in. My mind can't cope. Tomorrow I will continue to burst forth with all my might. In 12 hours that will be doubling the likes for the video, hoping that everyone is ready with 2 likes for Leo. Thank you." Chapter 516 Greed S Trip. After Sun Yunshan finished speaking, a ray of purple light rushed over like lightning. It quickly closed in, landed on the ground, and revealed Wang Lin inside. Wang Lin faintly smiled and clasped his hands. "I was met with a little delay on the way here. I didn't think Brother Sun would be waiting." Sun Yunshan laughed and said, "No problem. I was originally going to head to the East Demon Spirit Sea yesterday, but heard that Brother Wang was someone the All-Seer picked to go. I thought about it and decided to wait a few days for Brother Wang so we could go together. I'm not in a rush." Wang Lin gave him a warm smile and said, "Thank you for your consideration." With that, he looked at the people around Sun Yunshan. Sun Yunshan laughed. "These 3 are the Xuan Yuan Sect S elders responsible for my safety, as my cultivation can match Brother Wang S. If it wasn't for Father S order, I wouldn't go to the East Demon Spirit Sea." Wang Lin smiled. "Brother Sun is funny." As for the girl wearing pink, her gaze shifted as she stared at Wang Lin and showed a hint of surprise. Sun Yunshan pointed at the girl and said, "Brother Wang, this is my little sister, Sun Runan." With that, he gave her a stare and shouted, "This is the All-Seer S-Core disciple, Wang Lin. Why haven't you greet him yet?" Sun Runan wrinkled her nose as she greeted Wang Lin with her voice that was like a bird singing. "Runan greet elder brother Wang." Wang Lin smiled and nodded. He didn't take more than one look at her before his gaze fell on the transfer array. Sun Yunshan was very smart and naturally knew Wang Lin's thoughts, so he said, "Brother Wang, it is getting late, so let us get going." Wang Lin nodded. Then the 2 of them walked side by side toward the center of the transfer array. As Sun Yunshan walked, he didn't even turn his head, and as he slowly said, "Xuan Yi, come back!" Xuan Yi didn't say a word as he turned around and walked toward the transfer array along with the other 2 elders. The only one left outside the transfer array was the pink dress girl. She stomped her feet and shouted towards Sun Yunshan, "Big brother, just let me go." Sun Yunshan said, without any hesitation, "No. Activate the array." After the shout, the hundreds of disciples outside the transfer array opened their eyes and started using their spiritual energy, causing a large amount of spiritual energy to enter the array. This array wasn't a normal array, but one that sent people into space. The amount of celestial jades and spirit stones required to activate this array was enormous. A series of rumbling sounds came from the array as a powerful force began to spread out from it like a shockwave. Those hundreds of disciples' clothes were blown back and created a lot of flapping noises. Their faces were all pale, but none of them moved an inch. Shortly after, a rainbow hundreds of feet wide suddenly shot upwards and pierced into the sky. Rings of light began to spread out in the sky, and a majority of the sky on the planet was covered by this ripple of rings. The ripples lasted for half an incense stick of time before disappearing. At the moment the rainbow shot into the sky, the girl next to the array revealed a hint of pride. Her right hand touched her bag of holding, and a jade appeared in her grasp. You don't want me to go? Then I'll just follow you guys secretly. I stole Dada's 1,000 transfer jade, and with it I can follow along. Maybe I'll even find some treasures in the East Sea. The moment the jade appeared in her hand, it released a white light and surrounded the girl in an instant. With a flash of white light, her body turned into a strand of white light and fused with the rainbow. East of planet Tianyun, location of the gate to the East Demon Spirit Sea. There were only 3 days until it would open. The number of surrounding cultivators had increased to a frightening amount. There were at least 10,000 people here. However, among all these cultivators, not all of them were going to go inside. In fact, a majority of the people present were just here to view the tide phase. After all, this only happened once every 5,000 years, and for some cultivators, that was their entire life. If one can step into the yin and yang stage and break past the first step, they can live for 5,000 years. Even old monsters that rarely appeared were here outside the East Demon Spirit Sea. Some of these old monsters came by themselves. Some had their disciples with them. Every one of them that appeared caused an uproar and took an area for themselves. But the more they acted like this, the fewer people would be willing to offend them. Luckily, these people all knew each other, so even if they took an area, no one would mess with each other. For example, the blood ancestor's daughter, Yao Shui. No one has taken a step into the area 1,000 feet around her. On this day, there were only 2 days until the gate would open. A large amount of specks of light appeared in the void. There were simply too many specks of light, so it looked like all the stars in space were charging toward this location. Just these lights created a powerful pressure, like a huge storm was about to arrive. At this moment, aside from the famous old monsters, all the other cultivators' expressions changed. Even the blood ancestor's daughter, Yao Shui, opened her eyes to look at the endless specks of golden light. Yao Shui softly muttered, "Sword Saint."